Chapter 34:18. Ningqi kept placing his bets while Master Zhe Duo calmly picked the heavenly origin stones. Occasionally, he would look at Ningqi mockingly. Half a day later, Master Zhe Duo finally finished picking 100 heavenly origin stones. The two stood facing each other and placed their heavenly origin stones on their feet. Everyone could tell the quality at a glance. The heavenly origin stones on Master Zhe Duo's side are all of excellent quality. I'm afraid at least 20 of them will rise in value. As long as one of them rises in value, we'll get our capital back. The heavenly origin stones that Immortal Palace Cultivator picked are very ordinary. Our chances of winning are very low. Fortunately, I brought a lot of origin stones this time. Every small profit we can make is a profit. The crowd kept commenting on the heavenly origin stones in front of the two. In the end, even some of the cultivators who placed their bets on Ningqi's side felt a trace of regret. Brother Ning, I hope your intuition isn't wrong. I bet 10 million origin stones on our side. That's all I have. Sun Shu said. I bet 15 million. Shi Xiaoye smiled. Dream Cloud Swamp and Niao you didn't have the same boldness. They each bet 1 million origin stones. If Ningqi wasn't familiar with them, they might have placed their bets on Master Zhe Duo's side. Wait to collect the money. Ningqi smiled. Commander Yinzhen was slightly startled. This kid is so confident? Ningqi's confidence infected Commander Xueqiu. He felt a little excited and asked Ningqi, Little brother Ning, do you want me to open these heavenly origin stones? Let this junior do it. There's no need to trouble Commander Xueqiu. Ningqi smiled. Commander Xueqiu didn't know the real situation in the heavenly origin stones. If he didn't control his strength and opened one, it would be a huge loss. When choosing these heavenly origin stones, Ningqi first used the origin creation technique to look at them and eliminated a portion. He then used the heaven origin eye to look at the rest. Every heavenly origin stone contained something. After opening 100, the price would definitely rise. As for the heavenly source stones that Zhe Duo had chosen, Ningqi secretly took a few glances at them. Using the Qi observation technique, he found that the 100 heavenly source stones were indeed not bad. However, only 18 of them had something in them. The rest were all empty. The probability was not high, otherwise it would not be called stone gambling. The things that were cut out of the 18 stones were not a problem, which was enough to prove Zhe Duo's strength. Unfortunately, compared with Ningqi's side, he was far worse. One could only look at Qi while the other could see through it perfectly. There was no comparison at all. Little brother, you go first. Zhe Duo looked at Ningqi with a faint smile. Senior Zito, why don't we each open one? That way, it'll be easier to calculate the value. Ningqi laughed. All right. Zhe Duo smiled and nodded. After that, he looked around and randomly chose a heavenly source stone and cut it open. The heavenly source stone he chose had something in it, and it was a fruit. The surroundings were instantly filled with the fragrance of the fruit. Just a whiff of it would make people feel like they were being stimulated. The comfortable feeling of being invigorated. This fruit seems to be extremely beneficial to the primordial spirit. What kind of fruit is it? This is the replenishing spirit fruit. It's a medicinal ingredient for many pills. Directly swallowing it can also increase the strength of the primordial spirit. It's already very rare in the Shunluo world. Perhaps it can be found in other great worlds. 100-year-old replenishing spirit fruit is worth as much as 500,000 yuan essence stones. It's only the size of a fingernail, and this one is the size of a fist. It's estimated to be 10,000 years old, and it's worth at least 5 million yuan essence stones. 5 million yuan essence stones? Doesn't that mean that we've already gotten back 1/6 of the original amount? The various cultivators' faces were instantly filled with shock. Their gazes towards Grandmaster Zhe Duo were once again filled with a trace of respect and envy. As expected of a heavenly source master, he could directly cut out a heavenly source stone. A trace of pride flashed in Duo's eyes. Just as he was about to keep the replenishing spirit fruit, a cultivator in the late stage of Karma realm immediately offered to buy it for 6 million yuan essence stones. In this way, it was equivalent to getting back 1/5 of the original amount. Old Master Wei chuckled as he glanced at the Blood-Tier commander. Although he didn't say anything, the meaning in his eyes was very clear. Look, this is a heavenly source master. Everyone's attention was focused on Ning Qi. Compared to the replenishing spirit fruit, Ning Qi's items were a bit more ordinary. They were pills worth about 1 million yuan essence stones. The Blood-Tier commander's expression didn't change. This was just the beginning, and it didn't prove anything. However, the others were even more certain that Ning Qi would definitely lose this bet. For the next dozen or so fruits, Duo's luck was extremely good. All the heavenly source stones that he picked were of good quality. However, the items that he cut out weren't as valuable as the first one. After cutting out more than a dozen heavenly source stones, he barely managed to get back his original amount. As for Ning Qi, he was still 1,000 yuan away from getting back his original amount. A distance of more than 10,000 yuan essence stones. Although everyone was impressed by Ning Qi's ability to cut out items from every heavenly source stone, even Commander Yin Zhen's opinion of Ning Qi had changed. However, they could still see that there was still a huge gap between Ning Qi and Duo. Although I've lost quite a bit this time, if I can borrow this kid's ability, I'll be able to get back my original amount sooner or later. Commander Yin Zhen thought to himself. Then, he looked at the Blood-Tier commander with a hint of a smile. He thought that he had guessed the Blood-Tier commander's intentions. He wanted to use this chance to build a good relationship with Ning Qi. Winning or losing was no longer important. It's over, it's over. Brother Ning's intuition is indeed amazing. He can cut out so many items, but my 10 million yuan essence stones. Sun Shu's face was deathly pale, and his hands couldn't help but tremble. All the yuan essence stones that he had lost in the past few days, including today's, was all gone. If his father found out about this, he would probably get a good spanking. In the 5th district, the Sun family's strength was very average. 10 million yuan essence stones was not a small amount. That was the cultivation funds that the family had prepared for Sun Shu after he advanced to the Karma realm. It was to be used to buy blood essence pills. Let's see how you deal with this today. Komodo looked at Ning Qi with a cold smile on his face. Very quickly, another 2 hours had passed. In these 2 hours, Duo had consecutively cut out several heavenly source stone. On the contrary, Ning Qi's side was steadily increasing. Every heavenly source stone could be cut out something. The only difference was between a small increase and a large increase. On the surface, he was still very calm. However, from the corner of his eyes that occasionally glanced at Ning Qi, one could tell that Duo's heart was already in turmoil. The smile on the Blood-Tier commander's face became wider and wider. Not long after, the value of the items that Ning Qi cut out had already exceeded the original amount. It was almost the same value as Duo's side. From start to finish, Ning Qi was very calm. Chapter 34:19. Master Zito has suffered a loss again. The Blood-Tier commander's price seems to have risen again. This is incredible. Just where did this senior come from? From the beginning until now, all the heavenly source stones that he has picked have yielded treasures. Even the worst one turned out to be a 3rd-grade primordial spirit treasure worth 3 million primordial essence stones. That primordial spirit treasure is of extremely high quality. Even after staying in the heavenly origin stone for so many years, it still has such terrifying power. He's already invincible among the ranks. Fortunately, Commander Blood-Tier and the others were here. If we were the ones cutting it, even if we managed to obtain this treasure, we probably wouldn't be able to suppress its artifact spirit. the whispers of the crowd constantly entered Zhe Duo's ears. He forcibly maintained a calm smile on his face, but his heart was already somewhat chaotic. It had been 36 times in a row and nothing had come out of them. Ning Qi, on the other hand, had some good stuff in every one of them. Komodo and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. The cultivators who wanted to use Zhe Duo's strength to make a small profit were even more uneasy. Some of them had bet 1 million origin stones just to make a few. But if things continued like this, they might not even be able to keep their capital, let alone tens of thousands of pocket money. Ha ha ha, that's it. Continue to rise. As long as I win against Master Zhe Duo, I will have 10 million essence stones in my pocket. Brother Ning, you have to do your best. Sun Shu's face was filled with excitement. There were many people like him. They had bet tens of thousands of origin stones, planning to gamble on the dark horse. They had not expected the situation to be so favorable to them. What a pity! A hint of regret flashed in Dream Yun's eyes. He and Niao, you had only bet 1 million. Who would have thought that Shui Weeping wouldn't have misjudged him? This kid's cultivation isn't high, and he's so proficient in the Heavenly Genesis stone at such a young age. Could he be from a Heavenly Genesis master clan? I remember that none of the 4 great emperor clans of the human race specialized in this area. There doesn't seem to be any higher-level clans. Commander Yin Zhen looked at Ning Qi thoughtfully. Another loss. The smile on Zhe Duo's face had already become a little forced. Apart from the Heavenly Source stones that he had gained a dozen in the beginning, the remaining Heavenly Source stones that he had been more optimistic about had dealt him a heavy blow. Every single one of them was a complete loss. Soon, there was only one Heavenly Source stone left in front of him that had yet to be cut open. At this time, the total value of the treasures he had cut out was still slightly more than 30 million, while Ning Qi's side had already exceeded 150 million. It was more than 5 times higher than him. The Heavenly Origin stone in front of him had to increase in value, and it had to be at least 120 million. Only then would he have a chance of winning the bet between him and Ning Qi. Otherwise, he would definitely lose. Brother Wei, sometimes, luck is indeed stronger than tricks. The Blood-Tier commander looked at Old Man Wei and smiled. Old Man Wei put on a fake smile as he looked at him, then at Ning Qi. Finally, his gaze landed on the Heavenly Origin stone in front of Zhe Duo. He said indifferently, "The bet hasn't ended yet, but Commander Xueqiu is already so certain. Perhaps this Heavenly Origin stone is the deciding factor. The key to success. Is that so? This Heavenly Origin stone can produce a treasure worth 120 million? The Blood-Tier commander smiled. He looked at Ning Qi. Little brother Ning, what do you think of this Heavenly Origin stone? Ning Qi smiled. It's not worth a single cent. Arrogant. Old Man Wei snorted coldly. He then walked in front of Master Zhe Duo and picked up the Heavenly Origin stone from the ground. He said in a clear voice, "This Heavenly Origin stone has a full surface and excellent veined patterns. Whether it's on the outside or inside, there's a high chance that it will produce an item that will greatly increase in value. I'll cut it myself." Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. Seeing Old Man Wei's confidence, the Blood-Tier commander began to doubt himself. Could this Heavenly Origin stone really increase in value? 10 breaths later, Old Man Wei's face was deathly pale. The Heavenly Origin stone had been cut open, but there was nothing inside. Ah! The Blood-Tier commander could not help but laugh. The outcome of today's bet had already been decided. Komodo's face was ashen. Not only had his uncle lost 90 million Origin Essence stones to Ning Qi for the second time, but Ning Qi had earned 145 million Origin Essence stones if he included the bets on the outside. And all of this money came from his uncle's pocket. Taken out of his pocket in addition to yesterday's 90 million, this time, they would lose more than 200 million Origin Essence stones on Ning Qi, which was already an astronomical figure. At least to him and the family behind him, it was an astronomical figure. A trace of regret flashed in Komodo's eyes. If he had not complained to his uncle yesterday, his uncle might not have targeted Ning-Chi, and he would not have lost so many origin stones. Most importantly, there were many cultivators watching from the sidelines. Soon, the news would spread. The loss of face would be equivalent to the loss of origin stones, 30 million versus 150 million. Brother Wei, can you decide who wins now? The Blood-Tier commander smiled. Old Man Wei glanced at the Blood-Tier commander with an ugly expression and suddenly said, I still have important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Before leaving, he looked at Zhe Duo with a trace of coldness in his eyes. At the same time, he looked at Ning-Chi coldly and said, Little brother, your luck will eventually run out. After saying that, Old Man Wei quickly left with his men, unwilling to stay here and embarrass himself. Master Zhe Duo, you should fulfill your bet. The Blood-Tier commander smiled. He didn't take Lord Wei's anger to heart at all. Zhe Duo's face was ashen, and his heart felt like it was bleeding. He did not have that much cash. In the end, he had to take out a few items and sell them on the spot to collect the origin stones. Ning-Chi and the Blood-Tier commander had to pay 290 million origin stones. The scattered cultivators almost made Zhe Duo vomit blood. Fortunately, some people trusted him and bet a lot of origin stones on him to make up for his losses. After paying the compensation, Zhe Duo did not stay any longer. He turned and left. Just from the bet today we've already earned so much. We'll split 145 million origin stones each. Also, the heavenly source stone you just bought is worth 150 million. I'll give you 75 million origin stones directly. There's no need to deduct the capital. The Blood-Tier commander laughed excitedly. With a wave of his hand, he gave Ning-Chi another 75 million origin stones. This way, Ning-Chi had earned a total of 220 million origin stones today. In addition to the 90 million from yesterday, Ning-Chi had only spent a few days trading at the heavenly source stone. Chapter 34:20. This heavenly source stone, the Blood-Tier commander took a few glances and found it to be of poor quality. He asked in a low voice, Are you confident in getting something? A little. Ning-Chi smiled. If it's just a little, forget it, don't cut it for now. Just keep it. You won beautifully today. If you don't get anything from this one, it won't be pretty. The Blood-Tier commander smiled and waved his hand. Then this junior won't be polite. Ning-Chi smiled and put away the heavenly origin stone. In truth, the value of this heavenly origin stone might exceed the total value of the previous 99 stones, but it might also be the least valuable. This was because Ning-Chi had used the Eye of Heaven's origin to look at it, and there seemed to be a soul sealed inside. However, Ning-Chi had no way of knowing how strong this soul was. He could only know after cutting it out. Why don't we pick some more heavenly source stones? Commander Yin-Zhen asked. Seniors, I'm afraid I can't do it today. I've already spent a lot of energy in the stone gambling. I'm afraid I won't be able to see the next one. Ning-Chi smiled and declined. Then let's do it tomorrow. Same rules, you take half, I'll take half. I'll pay the capital. The Blood-Tier commander made a prompt decision. Before this, he and Ning-Chi had agreed to split the capital in half. However, Ning-Chi had just defeated Zhe Duo with an absolute advantage. This made the Blood-Tier commander trust in Ning-Chi's ability, so he didn't have to pay the capital. In the following period of time, Ning-Chi and the others spent their days with Commander Shui Wei and Commander Yin-Zhen, constantly trading at the Heavenly Origin Stone Market. Every day they would reap great rewards. Ning-Chi's reputation grew. Originally, they thought he was just lucky, but they had to admit that Ning-Chi definitely had his own unique method of identifying heavenly source stones. Shi Xiaoye, Dream Cloud Zhe, and now you followed Ningqi and earned a lot of origin stones. Even Sun Shu made up for his losses and made a huge profit. In the end, when the stall owners saw Ningqi buying heavenly source stones, they immediately raised the price. From then on, Ningqi stopped gambling on the stones. At the same time, everyone's promotion ceremony was about to begin. A group of people returned to the headquarters residence in the 5th region. Brother Ning, thank you. I didn't think I could earn so many origin stones from heavenly source stones. A total of 30 million. When I advance to the Karma realm in the future, I won't have to worry about not having enough blood essence pills to consume. Meng Yunze and the rest sat in a stone pavilion at the entrance of Ningqi's cave abode, excitedly discussing their gains and losses from the heavenly source stone trading market. I'm a little timid and only earned 20 million. I really envy you guys. Xiaoye earned at least 50 million, and Sun Shu earned at least 40 million. Niao Yu said enviously, feeling a little regretful. Compared to us, Brother Ning earns more. Sure, Xiaoye couldn't help but shake her head, looking at Ningqi with admiration. That's right. According to my calculations, Brother Ning has earned at least 1 billion origin essence stones by relying on the heavenly origin stone. TSK, I'm afraid that even an ordinary rebirth state expert would not be able to match up to such wealth. If Brother Ning were to advance to the Karma realm, he would be able to obtain the blood essence pill in the future. You can eat one and throw one away. Sun Shu said with a look of admiration. The middle-aged servant standing outside the stone pavilion heard this and couldn't help but be shocked. He subconsciously looked towards Ningqi, doubting the credibility of Sun Shu and the rest's words. In fact, Ningqi's origin essence stones had already exceeded 5 billion and reached a huge amount of 5 billion. With such wealth, he might be able to compete with a 5th-step cultivator like Lord Zhenling. Tomorrow is the promotion ceremony. I don't know how many people will be promoted, but I feel that the 5 of us can work together. Only then will we have a chance to enter the top 100. Meng Yunze suggested. Everyone smiled and nodded, agreeing with Meng Yunze's suggestion. If it was their first day in the headquarters, they might not be so united. However, during this period of time at the Heavenly Source Stone Trading Market, everyone was on the same side. Their relationship had deepened, and they had the foundation of cooperation and trust. Is there a fixed number of people who will be promoted every time? Ningqi suddenly asked. Sure, Xiaoye smiled and shook his head. Yes, at most 100 people. There have been a few promotion ceremonies in the past, and only a few people were promoted. The rest were all defeated. A few people? Ningqi was slightly stunned. From Sure Xiaoye's words, he seemed to have seen the tragic battle. It was the same for Lord Jiuquan's batch. Only he and Senior Wu Xiang were promoted. The rest were either dead or heavily injured. They all lost the qualification and didn't complete the promotion ceremony within the stipulated time. Sun Shu lowered his voice, and his tone was filled with admiration and respect. Ningqi's eyes flashed. No wonder the relationship between Jiuquan and Wu Xiang was so bad. At the same time, he finally understood why Jiuquan was able to lead the team to the headquarters. This was Lord Zhenling's trust in his strength. Komodo is here, Sun Shu suddenly said. Everyone followed Sun Shu's gaze and saw Komodo leading a few other Immortal Palace cultivators in the 5th district, and landing outside the stone pavilion. Komodo, what are you doing here? Sun Shu sneered. What does it have to do with you that I'm here? Komodo glanced at Sun Shu in disdain, then his gaze landed on Ningqi. There's something that we want to discuss with you. What is it? Ningqi said calmly. I know that you've earned a lot of primary essence stones from the Tianyuan stone market. There will be many experts at the advancement ceremony, so we want to borrow a few 100 million primary essence stones from you to strengthen ourselves. We will return it to you after we advance to the karma state. In return, We will help you a few times during the advancement ceremony. Komodo said calmly. Ning-Chi was slightly stunned, then he burst out laughing. How can you be so confident when you want to borrow money? Save it. I don't have money, and even if I did, I wouldn't lend it to you. Really? Aren't you afraid? Komodo's eyes darkened, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. What are you afraid of? A voice suddenly came from behind Komodo. Komodo's expression changed, and he bowed to Jiokun with everyone else. Greetings, Lord Jiokun. It's about time. I'll bring you guys over first, and we can use this opportunity to see how strong the Immortal Palace cultivators in the other districts are, so that we can be prepared for what's coming next. However, I have to warn you guys in advance, no infighting. Otherwise, even if you advance to the Karma state, you will not be able to escape punishment. Jiokun said coldly. Yes, Lord Jiokun. Chapter 34-21. Dark Parliament Headquarters Building. Ning-Chi and the rest followed behind Jiokun, their eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. However, no one dared to speak in a low voice. This was because from time to time, they would see a rebirth state expert whose cultivation was higher than Jiokun's. In fact, they even saw a few experts who were even stronger than Jiokun. They even saw a few who were suspected to be at the 5th step. The overall strength of Dark Parliament is definitely not weaker than any great emperor family. However, it is still not comparable to Supreme Parliament. Ning-Chi thought to himself. Suddenly, Sun Shu's voice rang in Ning-Chi's ears. Brother Ning, do you think we can meet a great emperor this time? It's possible. Ning-Chi smiled. Sun Shu's eyes became slightly excited. The great emperors of the Covenant of Darkness had fought their way out of the sea of corpses. Every one of them had their own legend. If he could receive an audience with the great emperors, it would be a great honor. Not long after, when they walked out of a small room that looked like an elevator, their eyes suddenly opened up. They were in a very large hall. Cultivators came and went busily. No one gave Ning-Chi and the others a second glance. Ning-Chi and the rest saw the cultivators of Immortal Palace in other regions waiting in front. Jiokun, your 5th region always comes so slowly. You seem to be full of confidence? Wu Xiang's slightly mocking voice sounded again. It doesn't mean anything. The promotion ceremony starts tomorrow. Jiokun said lightly. That's right. Wu Xiang nodded with a smile. Although he had no facial features, everyone could feel that he was smiling. It was a very special feeling. After a pause, Wu Xiang looked at Ning-Chi. Why didn't you come to me? Are you looking down on me? The expressions of Shi Xiaoye and the rest changed slightly. Brother Ning, you have to be careful. Senior Wu Xiang is very narrow-minded. If he really remembers you, you might be secretly killed when you go out to carry out missions in the future. Sun Shu could not help but remind him. Ning-Chi looked at Wu Xiang calmly and suddenly smiled. Senior, you must be joking. I am a dark cultivator of the 5th region. If I get entangled with Senior, I'm afraid Lord Jiokun will not let me go. Yes. Jiokun nodded lightly and looked at Wu Xiang. He's right. You don't have to waste your efforts. The cultivators of District 5 will always be District 5 cultivators. Wu Xiang smiled and seemed to want to say something. Just at this moment, a group of people suddenly walked over. Seeing this, the leaders of the various regions cupped their fists and saluted. Greetings, Secretary General. Secretary General? Ning-Chi was slightly startled. After bowing, he lifted his head and looked over, only to see Commander Xueqi and Commander Yin Zhen smiling at him. At this moment, the two of them were standing together with 7 to 8 other reincarnation stage experts behind a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man looked no different from a human, but Ning-Chi sensed a trace of the demon clan aura from him. However, Ning-Chi didn't dare to use the system to check, as the other party was likely a 5th step cultivator. If the system sensed the existence of the system, he wouldn't be able to explain it. Yes. Is everyone here? The Secretary General smiled. Everyone's here. The leading cultivators from each district nodded in agreement. Follow me if you're all here. The promotion ceremony this time is different from the past. Councilman Sirius specifically asked me to let you know in advance. Different from the past? Ningqi suddenly noticed that the expressions of Jiuquan and the rest had become much more solemn. Soon, everyone came to a conference room with a huge round table in the middle. Jiuquan and the rest were arranged to sit down, but Ningqi and the rest could only stand behind the leading cultivators and didn't have the right to sit down. On the wall in the middle of the conference room hung something that looked like an LCD television. Ningqi's eyes couldn't help but move slightly. Ever since he entered District 5 for the first time, Ningqi vaguely felt that the dark cultivators seemed to have a more technological feeling than the outside world. This LCD screen just happened to confirm this point. Could it be that among the dark cultivators, there is a special race that focuses on technological development? Ningqi guessed in his heart. With Shenlua World as the center, within its range of influence, there were countless small worlds and great worlds. It wouldn't be too surprising if one of the worlds focused on technological development, like Atlantis. The Secretary General sat in the middle of the room. He glanced around and smiled gently. In the past promotion ceremonies, these little fellows would compete against each other. Those who are strong enough to enter the top 100 would be promoted. However, for this promotion ceremony, Sirius Councilman has issued a mission. Those who complete the mission will be directly qualified for promotion. If they can return to the headquarters alive within the time limit, they will be judged based on how well they have completed the mission. The ranking. Those who are below the top 100 will be disqualified and won't be qualified to advance to the Karma Realm for 500 years. Many cultivators from Immortal Palace heard this and their expressions changed. Ningqi even saw a trace of regret in Komadwa's eyes. Not only Komadwa, but many cultivators from Immortal Palace also felt a little regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have waited another 100 years and participated in the next promotion ceremony. This mission was issued by Councilman Sirius and personally ordered by the Secretary General. It was obviously not simple. Secretary General, I have a question. Jiuquan said slowly. Speak. The Secretary General smiled. Even if you don't directly complete the mission, as long as you participate, don't hide, and return to the headquarters within the stipulated time, and are ranked in the top 100, you will be qualified for promotion? Jiuquan asked. His question was also what the cultivators from other districts wanted to ask, but they were not as bold as Jiuquan. I've already said that when the time comes, we will determine whether you are qualified based on the completion of the mission. What you said is the premise of the judgment. If you don't pass any of them, you won't even be qualified. The Secretary General smiled. Thank you, Secretary General, for clearing my doubts. I understand. Jiuquan nodded. Next is the details of the mission. I will only say it once, so you must remember it well. The Secretary General smiled. The LCD screen behind him suddenly lit up, and a huge city appeared. At first, it was a bird's-eye view. As the view zoomed in, Ningqi and the others also saw the cultivators walking in the huge city. Each of them had a wolf's head and a human body. This is the Greedy Wolf Realm, one of the 10 realms under the Central Ninth Hub. This huge city is also the hometown of Councilman Sirius. Hometown of Councilman Sirius. Chapter 34-22. This person is the Deputy City Lord of Tianlang City. He has the cultivation of the rebirth state and recently obtained an item that can influence the war between the 1,000 races. Your mission is to get close to him and take that item from him. Whoever obtains it will be qualified to be promoted. If you fail to obtain it, You will have a chance to be promoted if you know what that item looks like, uses, or even its name. You will have a chance to be promoted. The time limit is 1 year. After 1 year, I will personally bring you back. Of course, you can also choose to hide and not participate in the mission, but you won't be qualified for promotion. The Secretary General said with a faint smile on his face. Rebirth state cultivation. Even Ning Chi couldn't help but feel a headache. It just so happened that something went wrong during the promotion ceremony. They were just a group of immortal palace cultivators. How could they steal that mission item from a rebirth state cultivator? The real mission was probably just to obtain information about the mission item. The higher-ups didn't even think that they could steal it. Then, the screen introduced the detailed information of the Deputy City Lord of the Heavenly Wolves City, including his subordinates. 2 Fate State Warriors, more than a dozen Causality State Warriors, and over 100 Celestial Palace Cultivators. This is a little thing given to you by the Sirius representative. With it, you can disguise yourself as the Greedy Wolf Clan. Only representatives can see through it. It will be enough for you to hide your identity in Sky Wolf City. The Secretary General gently waved his hand and jade plates the size of a thumb appeared on the table, exuding a mysterious and special aura. You have 1 day to prepare. I will send you to the Greedy Wolf realm tomorrow. After saying that, the Secretary General slowly stood up and left the conference room surrounded by the Bloodtier Commander and others. Come here. Jiuquan and the others looked at each other, then picked up the jade plates on the table and distributed them to the Immortal Palace cultivators below. Ning Chi took the jade pendant and his mind suddenly moved. Then he found that there was a slight change in his body, and his face was a little itchy. In less than a breath's time, he had become a cultivator with a wolf head and a human body. The change seemed to come from within his body. Origin. It was not a simple illusion. Not long after, hundreds of wolf heads in the conference room looked at each other. That night, Ning Chi stayed in the residence arranged by Jiuquan in the headquarters of the Covenant of Darkness. Everyone had a small cubicle. Dong dong dong, just as Ning Chi sat down cross-legged, there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door, he saw a woman looking at him respectfully. You are. Ning Chi frowned. Bloodtier Commander sent me to invite you, the woman said in a low voice. Ning Chi's eyes flashed. 3 breaths of time later, he nodded and closed the door. Please lead the way. About an hour later, Ning Chi was led by the woman to an incomparably luxurious room. Compared to the cubicle he stayed in before, this room was equivalent to a presidential suite in a 7-star hotel, and his cubicle was 50. The guest house at Yuan E Hotel. You're here, have a seat. The Bloodtier Commander looked at Ning Chi with a smile. After Ning Chi sat down, he slowly said, The failure rate of the advancement ceremony this time is 99%. Please give me some pointers, Commander Bloodtier. Ning Chi cupped his hands and smiled. It was impossible for the other party to call someone to bring him here just for a casual chat. It was definitely related to the mission. According to the rules, I shouldn't talk too much with you. However, I'm optimistic about your future, so I hope you can advance to the Karma realm during this mission. The Bloodtier Commander smiled slightly. Pausing for a moment, he continued, You guys are just incidentally tagged along for this mission. Even if you guys can't complete the mission, a secretary will personally take care of it. So remember the first point, protect yourself first. If you can protect yourself, you just need to obtain more information about the mission item. As for stealing it, that's not something you guys can do. Ning Chi suddenly understood. The Covenant of Darkness really wasn't sending them to their death. They were just using this mission as an opportunity to train them. As for the reason for this arrangement, I can tell you. You should know that the identities of us dark cultivators in the outside world cannot be seen. If the Holy Assembly finds out, they will kill us all. However, if we don't have any identities in the outside world, it will be difficult for us to advance. Just relying on the resources of the Covenant of Darkness is not enough to support the cultivation of so many dark cultivators. The Blood-Tier commander smiled. So most dark cultivators have another identity in the outside world, including the counselors. Perhaps they are some great emperors you are familiar with, but you just don't know them. But in these years, many dark cultivators have been careless and their identities have been exposed. So the counselors feel that they can add more training in this area so that you know how to hide yourselves and how to lie without batting an eyelid. In other words, as long as you can get close to the Vice City Lord of Tianlang City without being discovered, and stay there for a year, you will obtain the qualifications to advance, even if you know nothing about the mission item. At this point, the Blood-Tier commander smiled again. You only need to know what I'm telling you. It's late, go back to sleep. Ning Qi stood up with a solemn expression and bowed to the Blood-Tier commander. Thank you, Blood-Tier commander. The information that the Blood-Tier commander had told him tonight would be of great help in completing the mission. Otherwise, if he really thought that he had to steal the mission item or obtain detailed information about the item to complete the mission, even Ning Qi would have the same problem. The possibility of failure. But if it was just a disguise, it would be much easier to get close to the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City. As long as he didn't do anything suspicious, Ning Qi was confident that he could stay by the Vice City Lord's side for a year. This was the key to his advancement to the Karma Realm. Thus, Commander Bloodtier's words tonight had indeed helped Ning Qi greatly. The next day, everyone returned to the huge hall nervously, waiting for the head secretary to arrive. Sun Shu didn't seem to be in a good mood. Sure, Xiaoye and the others didn't look much better either. So many cultivators from Immortal Palace only had 7 or 8 people who were in a good mood. He felt calm about this mission. Jiu Kun secretly sized up Ning Qi. When he saw Ning Qi's calm demeanor, he could not help but nod slightly. Indeed, Ning Qi was someone worth nurturing. Even if he failed this mission with this calmness, he would still be able to achieve great things in the future. Chapter 34-23. Quit? Everyone looked at each other, but in the end, no one chose to withdraw from this promotion mission. If they wanted to obtain the qualifications for the next promotion, they would have to wait 500 years. No matter who it was, no one was willing to give up, even if they knew that the mission was extremely difficult. They also wanted to give it a try. Nangong Zhuhui made a mistake. He lost this opportunity, but he didn't have to face such a difficult mission. The Immortal Palace cultivators in District 5 were secretly envious. Ning Qi, I'm afraid your 1 billion primary essence stones are going to go to waste. Komodo sent a message to Ning Qi gloatingly. Maybe. Ning Qi smiled indifferently. Komodo was slightly stunned, then he snorted coldly and said no more. In less than an hour, everyone walked into the tunnel created by the Secretary General. When Ning Qi and the rest walked in, they felt the world spin. When their feet touched the ground again, the scenery around them had changed drastically. They had already left. After leaving the headquarters of the Covenant of Darkness, they appeared in a small valley. Not far from the valley was Sky Wolf City. The Immortal Palace cultivators in each district looked at each other, then they all transformed into wolf heads and human bodies. They split up and headed for Sky Wolf City. Now it's time to settle the score between us. Komodo's eyes flashed with a sinister smile as he walked towards Ning Qi. Komodo, there might be someone watching this mission. Don't do anything here. Otherwise, you will be punished when you return to the headquarters. A Immortal Palace cultivator from District 5 stopped Komodo and sent a message. Komodo was slightly taken aback. He looked at Ning Qi unwillingly, then sneered, I'll let you off this time. With that, they turned around and flew in the direction of Tianlang City. Brother Ning, we are now in a group of 5. How should we proceed? Sun Shu looked at Komodo's back disdainfully and asked Ning Qi. Let's play it by ear. Ningqi smiled. Komodo was about to attack, but he turned and left. It was very likely that Komodo was thinking the same thing as him. The Secretary-General and Jiuquan might be observing the progress of this mission through some unknown means. They could see everyone's every move. Otherwise, how could he judge the degree of completion of each person's mission? Therefore, Ningqi felt that he had to be careful in his actions and try to show his strength that was reasonable. The Fire Kirin, the Demon Refining Gourd, and the Silver Dragon were definitely not allowed to appear. The Immortal Slaying Gourd and the Tablet of Mountains and Rivers were not a big problem. At the same time, he did not need to hide. He had hidden his physical strength. Back in the 5th Division, he had defeated a flesh and blood training camp. The headquarters must have had the information about him. Let's play it by ear. Sure, Xiaoya nodded. Let's head to Heaven Wolf City first and think of a way to get close to the City Lord Mansion. As long as we can enter the City Lord Mansion, we will have a chance to get close to the Deputy City Lord. Dream Cloud Marsh and Niao Yu nodded in agreement. Headquarters of the Dark Council. A gigantic LCD screen appeared in the huge hall. The screen was divided into many small grids. Every move of Ningqi and the others could be seen on the screen in real time. Jiuquan and the others sat in front of the LCD screen with serious expressions. He looked at her solemnly. Apart from them, the Secretary-General also retained Commander Bloodtear and the others as judges for this promotion mission, recording the degree of completion of each Immortal Palace cultivator. Jiuquan, your 5th Division is not united enough. That Komodo seems to be Master Zhe Duo's nephew, right? He seemed to want to deal with the little guy who sponsored 1 billion essence stones to our headquarters? Wu Xiang suddenly laughed. Many people were stunned. Sponsored 1 billion essence stones? Even Commander Bloodtear and Yinzhen didn't know about this. They were stunned when they heard this. Just take care of yourself, Jiuquan said indifferently. Wu Xiang smiled and didn't say anything. Commander Bloodtear looked at Jiuquan. Little brother Ning sponsored 1 billion essence stones to the headquarters? Little brother Ning? Jiuquan was stunned. Then he nodded with a strange expression. That's right. He got his spot this time because of the sponsorship. Jiuquan was shocked by how Commander Bloodtear addressed Ningqi. He had been in seclusion during this period of time and naturally didn't hear about what happened in the Heavenly Source Stone Market. Komodo didn't dare to tell him about this. After all, he had a guilty conscience. They had gone against Ningqi before and Jiuquan hated internal conflict. He would only be asking for trouble if he told Komodo. Wu Xiang subconsciously looked at the Bloodtear commander, and his judgment of Ningqi changed slightly. With little brother Ning's strength, it's normal for him to sponsor 1 billion essence stones to the headquarters. Commander Yinzhen smiled. Little brother Ning again? Jiuquan couldn't help but ask, Commander Yinzhen, what do you mean by strength? You still don't know? Little brother Ning has a deep understanding of the Heavenly Source Stone. Or rather, he has talent. Your 5th district has picked up a treasure. Commander Yinzhen smiled. There was nothing to hide about this. As long as someone wanted to, they could find out about their actions in the Heavenly Source Stone Market. Heavenly Source Stone. No wonder. Wu Xiang finally understood how Ningqi took out the 1 billion essence stones. He thought that Ningqi might have dug up a great emperor's tomb. Now, it seemed that he earned it from the Heavenly Source Stone. Jiuquan's expression changed slightly. His gaze fell on the corner of the screen. It was showing Ningqi's every move in the Greedy Wolf world. Heaven Wolf City. Huge wolf heads appeared in front of everyone. There seemed to be only one race in the Greedy Wolf world. It wasn't like the Celestial world, where there were hundreds of races. There was one thing that was similar to the Divine Luo world. The cultivators of the Greedy Wolf world also spoke the common language of the Divine Luo world. Although there would be some differences in accents in some areas, the difference wouldn't be too big. As long as it was the pure common language of the divine Luo world, they wouldn't provoke it. No one doubted it. Brother Ning, what are we going to do next? After entering Heaven Wolf City, Sun Shu glanced at the city lord's mansion from time to time and asked in a low voice. Let's stay here for a month or two first before discussing the future. What does everyone think? Ning Qi smiled. That's good too. This way we can collect more useful information. Sure, Xiaoya nodded in agreement. Dream Cloud Lake and Niao Yu basically treated her as the leader. Since she nodded, the two of them naturally agreed. However, they had to pay attention to the residents. Firstly, they couldn't be together with the dark cultivators. Otherwise, it would be easy to give themselves away. Of course, it is also easy to be secretly framed. Chapter 34-24. Brother Ning, isn't this full moon too expensive? 10,000 essence stones for one night? Don't tell me they've given us bejeweled nectar to eat and drink? Sun Shu stood at the entrance of Full Moon Inn and said hesitantly. With his wealth of tens of millions of essence stones, he could only stay in Full Moon Inn for about 10 years. What kind of concept was that? Even if he reached Karma Realm and started taking blood essence pills, a mid-quality blood essence pill would only cost 50,000 essence stones. It would take 10 days to digest, and it would only cost 150,000 essence stones a month, while staying in Full Moon Inn would cost 300,000 essence stones. Others will think the same, so the probability of meeting acquaintances in Full Moon Inn is extremely low, which is beneficial to our operation. Besides, staying in Full Moon Inn is actually a part of my plan. Ning Qi smiled. Brother Ning, what is your plan? Sure, Xiaoya was slightly startled, surprise flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect Ning Qi to already have a plan. Didn't he say to act according to the situation? This plan is not mature yet. When it is mature, I will tell you. As for the expenses of Full Moon Inn, I will cover it. What do you guys think? Ning Qi smiled. How can this be? Sun Shu quickly shook his head. Sure, Xiaoya and the other two didn't agree either. Ning Qi smiled and said, I came up with the plan, but I don't know if it will work. If the four of you are willing to act according to my plan, I should pay for the accommodation. Besides, this accommodation fee is nothing to me. That's right. With Brother Ning's net worth, even if it costs 100,000 a day, Brother Ning would still be able to afford it. Well, then let's eat from a rich family. Once we return to the 5th district, we'll treat Brother Ning well. Sun Shu smiled. Seeing this, everyone didn't argue anymore and followed Ning Qi into Full Moon Inn. Komodo and the rest saw this scene from afar and their faces turned ugly. Komodo, they are staying in Full Moon Inn, what about us? I heard that Full Moon Inn costs 10,000 essence stones a night. They are really rich. They must have earned a lot from the market. A few cultivators from District 5 said with jealousy. Humph, they've just arrived, yet they're already so high profile. It's hard to avoid attracting attention. We should keep a low profile and find a place to stay for the time being. Other than wasting origin essence stones, what else can they do? He didn't even understand the principle of not showing off one's wealth. What do you think a 4th-step cultivator would think if they saw a mere immortal palace cultivator being so extravagant? Komodo laughed sinisterly. I'm afraid he will secretly make a move. A person said calmly. Not bad. Komodo smiled. This way we don't have to do anything. It saves us some effort. Headquarters of the Dark Council. The leading cultivators of each district looked at Jiuquan with a strange expression. They had just noticed that Ning Qi and his group had entered the Full Moon Inn. 5 people, 5 rooms, 1 day cost 50,000 origin essence stones. If they stayed for a month, it would be 1.5 million. Even Fate State cultivators like them wouldn't be willing to do that. Jiuquan, the cultivators of your 5th district are indeed generous. How is this a quest? It's more like a vacation. Wu Xiang spoke again. It's none of your business, Jiu Kun said calmly. Wu Xiang wanted to retort again, but he happened to see the blood-tier commander look in his direction. He suddenly realized that Ning Qi had a good relationship with the blood-tier commander, so he couldn't make an issue out of it to mock Jiu Kun. Wu Xiang smiled sinisterly. Each of the Immortal Palace cultivators under him had a trump card, and he had specifically instructed them to trick the cultivators of the 5th district if they had the chance. It'll be fun if the 5th district can't even get a spot this time. Wu Xiang kept sneering in his heart. 10,000 origin essence stones. It's really worth it. These dishes are actually made with materials taken from a star demon that's comparable to a karma state cultivator. Sun Shu and the others looked at the dozens of delicious dishes on the table and sighed in their hearts. This was a gift from the Full Moon Inn, and the dishes alone were worth at least 30,000 to 40,000 origin essence stones. However, this was just one table. If they wanted to eat more, they would have to pay for it themselves. Eat more and talk less. Ning Qi smiled. He didn't move his chopsticks much, but he kept looking at the cultivators around him. Few cultivators who could eat at the Full Moon Inn were at the 3rd step. Most of them were at the 4th step. Even karma state cultivators were rare. For example, the table next to Ning Qi was filled with fate state cultivators. While Ning Qi was sizing them up, many people were also sizing up Ning Qi. What's the background of those Immortal Palace cultivators? Could they be disciples of some big family that came out to train since they can eat the dishes of the Full Moon Inn? It's possible. These were all voice transmissions, so Ning Qi and the others naturally couldn't hear them. Not long after, Sun Shu and the others finished all the dishes on the table. After eating, Sun Shu suddenly took out a heavenly source stone and asked Ning Qi, "Brother Ning, I think this heavenly source stone is not good enough. Can you help me take a look? Can you cut it and increase it?" Ning Qi glanced at it and smiled. Small increase. Small increase. Many cultivators who were secretly watching them heard this, and a trace of mockery flashed in their eyes. Nowadays, who dared to say that they could see a quasi-heavenly source stone 100%? Even rebirth realm cultivators, or even 5th step cultivators, without any special inheritance, have no way of dealing with Tianyuan. Stone was also clueless. Small increase? That's great. Sun Shu was overjoyed. He cut open the heavenly source stone on the dining table and revealed a porcelain bottle. There were 3 blood essence pills inside, worth 150,000. Some of the cultivators who knew a little about the heavenly source stone could tell that the price of the heavenly source stone was definitely not more than 30,000 spirit stones. As such, the price had increased by at least 5 times. This time, the way everyone looked at Ning Qi was different. When Ning Qi and the others were about to leave, a karma cultivator came forward with a smile on his face. "Is this little brother a heaven origin master?" "You are?" Ning Qi responded with a chuckle. His demeanor was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not act humble just because the other party was a karma cultivator. Noticing that, some of the other cultivators grew even more certain that Ning Qi's group possessed a formidable background. At the same time, they were also shocked by Ning Qi's earlier actions. He was curious about the method of appraising the heavenly source stone. "I am the City Lord Mansion's deacon, Xiao Ri." Chapter 34-25. May I know what advice Senior Xiaori has for me? Ning Qi smiled and cupped his hands. "I don't dare to give advice, but I am rather interested in the heavenly source stone, so I would like to exchange some pointers with little brother." Xiaori smiled. "I see." Ning Qi was enlightened, then he showed an apologetic expression. "I still have some matters to attend to today. Why don't Senior come to Full Moon Inn tomorrow?" "Oh, all right." Xiaori smiled and nodded. 10 minutes later, Shi Xiaoye and the rest came to Ning Qi's room. After a dozen breaths of silence, Sun Shu spoke first. "Brother Ning, This is the first step, right? The others probably haven't figured out how to get close to the city. As for us, deacons have come to us. That's right. Meng Yunzhen nodded excitedly. We should be the ones with the fastest progress out of everyone. Brother Ning, this is your plan? Using your identity as a heavenly source master to enter the city lord's residence as a consecrator? Shi Xiaoya's eyes lit up. If she didn't know what Ning Qi was planning at the start, she had already guessed Ning Qi's plan. At the same time, she was impressed that Ning Qi could think of this immediately and use his talent in the Heavenly Source Stone to get closer to the mission target. Because she felt that Ning Qi's plan was not only safe, but also had a high chance of getting close to the Vice City Lord. Even the strong commanders Shui Wei and Yin Zhen were Rebirth Realm experts, and it was because of Ning Qi's talent in stone gambling that they had a good relationship with him. You can say that, but we don't need to enter the City Lord's residence to be consecrators. To put it bluntly, we are only at the Tao querying Great Perfection realm, not even at the Karma realm. There are many experts in the City Lord's residence. If we aren't careful, we might be ambushed. No, as long as we display our strength in this aspect, the City Lord's residence will naturally get in touch with us. Ning Qi smiled. I'm just afraid they won't believe us, and we will need some time to gain their trust. Niao Yu said. So we are staying in Full Moon Inn. This is also a way to show our strength. Ning Qi's lips curled. No wonder. With this thought, Niao Yu suddenly came to a realization. In this way, the cultivators who were eating just now would naturally think that the reason they could stay in such an expensive place like the Full Moon Inn was definitely related to the Heavenly Source Stone. Will Xiaori come to find us tomorrow? What do we have to do? Shi Xiaoya asked. I'm afraid that won't happen. He must have already sent people to gather information about us. If we want him to come looking for us again, we'll need to add a few more fires. Tomorrow, we'll directly go to the Heavenly Origin Stone Market here. I've already asked for the directions, and the City Lord's mansion is handing them over. He also owns quite a lot of shares in the market. Ning Qi smiled. The next day, as expected, Xiaori didn't look for Ning Qi and the others. Ning Qi and the others didn't wait for Xiaori at the Lunar Pavilion as they headed straight for the Heavenly Wolf City's Heavenly Origin Stone Trading Market. The news reached Xiaori's ears immediately. He had specially arranged for spies to see who Ning Qi and the others were. Once he heard that they had gone to the Heavenly Origin Stone Exchange, Xiaori immediately rushed over. Those few look like cultivators from Sector 5? They are heading towards the Heavenly Origin Stone Market. You still want to bet on stones here? You're not doing quests anymore? Who cares about them? I've already made some connections. I'll be heading to the City Lord's mansion as guards soon. You guys better be careful, don't give yourself away. A few wolf-headed cultivators retracted their gazes from Ning Qi and the others' backs and hurried towards the City Lord's mansion. At the same time, City Lord's mansion. Komodo and the others fawned over a City Lord's mansion deacon as they arrived at the stable of the City Lord's mansion. This is the place. You guys familiarize yourselves with the place. The coachmen of the City Lord's mansion can't be ordinary people. If any important figures want to use the carriage, be smart and don't make a fool of yourself. Deacon Lin Qin said indifferently. Deacon Lin Qin, don't worry. We understand. Komodo fawned over and smiled. It's good that you understand. Deacon Lin Qin nodded and turned to leave. Once he left, Komodo's eyes turned gloomy. This damned thing. Just a few coachman positions and they're selling for 50,000 essence stones. What a greedy bug. Komodo, 50,000 it is. We won't spend much anyway. You can't catch the wolf without risking the child. Actually, this is good too. We should be the first to enter the City Lord's mansion. It's very likely that we can complete the mission in less than a year. When the reward comes from above, what's a few 100,000 essence stones? A cultivator from the Immortal Palace in the 5th District said in a low voice. That's true. Komodo's expression turned slightly better. He then sneered. I wonder how Ning-Chi and the others are doing. They're still enjoying themselves in the lunar pavilion. I can't wait to see their expressions after we complete the mission. Darkness Assembly Headquarters. Not bad. Someone from the 5th District has already entered the City Lord's mansion. They're one step ahead of the cultivators from the other district. The Secretary General suddenly came to the giant screen and said with a smile. Jiokun and the others hurriedly stood up and bowed along with Commander Shueqiu and the others. No need for formalities. The Secretary General waved his hand gently, then stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the giant screen. It seems that these little guys are trying to use the vacancies in the City Lord's mansion to achieve their goals. Coachmen, guards, gardeners, servants. TSK. He seemed to be praising them, but in fact there was a flash of disappointment in his eyes. Secretary General, there are also some little guys who have taken a different approach. Commander Shueqiu suddenly laughed. Oh! The Secretary General looked at Commander Shueqiu. It's them. They plan to use their status as Heavenly Source Masters to make the City Lord's mansion take the initiative to contact them. Commander Shueqiu pointed to the corner of the screen. The Secretary General's gaze immediately landed on Ning-Chi and the others. He frowned. Status as Heavenly Source Masters? Although the strength of Sky Wolf City is very ordinary, the City Lord is still a 5th-step cultivator, and the Deputy City Lord is a rebirth state expert. Can such an existence use ordinary methods to attract them? I'm afraid ordinary methods will be useless. Secretary General, you might not know this, but even I have to praise this little guy's ability to appraise Heavenly Source stones. Commander Shueqiu took a step forward and whispered what had happened previously. The Secretary General's eyes lit up when he heard that. Then, he smiled and nodded. If he really has such good eyesight, then it might really be possible for the City Lord's mansion to take the initiative to contact him. If that's the case, his score will definitely be higher. How about this? Help me pay more attention to this kid. The Secretary General turned and left after giving his instructions. The expressions of the cultivators from the various districts did not look good. The fact that the Secretary General was paying attention to meant that the cultivator from the 5th district was likely to be promoted. Jiokun, congratulations! Chapter 34-26 Tianlang City, Heaven Origin Stone Trading Market. Ning-Chi didn't use the Eye of Heaven's origin. Instead, he used the Origin Creation Incantation to cut out a lot of good stuff. There were connate spiritual treasures, various medicinal pills, spiritual materials, and spiritual fruits. Of course, this wasn't the headquarters of the Covenant of Darkness. With the protection of a rebirth realm expert like Shuewei Commander, Ning-Chi wouldn't be too high profile. Even so, Ning-Chi and company gained quite a bit of fame in a short period of time. Where did this strong dragon come from? I saw him buy 70 to 80 Heaven Origin stones, and the price actually increased by half. This is too terrifying. He must be a Heaven Origin Master. Heaven Origin Masters are all extremely rich. Unfortunately, there are too few Heaven Origin Master inheritances. If one day I can obtain one, I won't have to worry about not having enough money to cultivate. In a medium-sized Heavenly Source stone trading shop, a few cultivators were standing behind Ning-Chi and the others, discussing secretly with envy on their faces. At this moment, a figure walked in. A cultivator in the dark saw this and immediately walked to that figure and said softly, "Deacon Xiaori." Xiaori nodded. His gaze landed on Ning-Chi and he immediately smiled. "Little brothers, we meet again." As he spoke, he glanced at the Heavenly Source stones that had been cut open on the table. Although they had already been taken away, judging from the remnant aura on them, these Heavenly Source stones had all contained treasures, which was similar to what his subordinates had reported. "So it's Deacon Xiaori. Ning Qi smiled and cupped his fists. Sure, Xiaoye and company didn't say anything, subtly acknowledging Ning Qi as their leader. Deacon Xiao Ri, your presence brings light to our humble shop. I wonder if Elder Xiao Ri is interested in any heaven origin stone? This old man will give you a 20% discount. The shopkeeper quickly walked out from behind the counter and looked at Xiao Ri fawningly. Although there were many factions in Tianlang City, the strongest was naturally the city lord's estate. Xiao Ri was a Karma Realm initial stage cultivator and the head of the city lord's estate's deacon. Above him were the elders, vice city lord and city lord. Their statuses were already extremely high in the outside world. Shopkeeper Mo is too polite. Xiao Ri smiled. If it was any other day, he would greet him. But today, his target was Ning Qi. After a perfunctory greeting, Xiao Ri smiled at Ning Qi again. Little brother, you must have increased a lot today, right? Not at all. It's just that it's neither a loss nor a profit. Ning Qi smiled modestly. Being able to not lose or earn anything from heavenly origin stones is already a great skill. Since it's such a coincidence today, why don't I accompany you guys in picking heavenly origin stones? Xiao Ri smiled. When the shopkeeper heard this, he immediately knew why Xiao Ri had come. He tactfully returned to the counter. However, there was a hint of fear in his gaze when he looked at Ning Qi. Just a moment ago, Ning Qi had cut out a blood essence pill worth 200,000 origin essence stones from an ordinary heavenly source stone that was only worth 200 origin essence stones. There were 4 blood essence pills in total. If they were sold, they would be worth as much as his. That was the net profit of the store for several months. If Senior Xiao Ri is interested, let's take a look at the heavenly origin stones. However, it's better if we don't look at the heavenly origin stones here. Ning Qi smiled. When the shopkeeper heard this, his expression changed. Just as he was about to defend himself, Xiao Ri laughed loudly. Of course. I will bring you to the largest heavenly origin stone store here. Our city lord's residence has 60% of the shares. The quality of the heavenly origin stones there is much better than here. Of course, the price is much higher too. If the quality is good enough, the price doesn't matter. Ning Qi's lips curled up. Xiao Ri saw that Ning Qi's words were filled with strong confidence. He was delighted. If the other party was really a decent heavenly source master, then he would have profited. In such a huge sky wolf city, the number of heavenly source masters could be counted on one's fingers. The city lord's residence only had one heavenly source master. Even the vice city lord had to put in a few good words to invite him. A deacon like him would not even be bothered with him. Everyone, this is the place. Xiao Ri brought everyone to the front of a very luxurious building. There were many people inside and it was very lively. Almost every second, they could hear the surprised screams and sorrowful roars of cultivators. Heaven Mending Pavilion. Ning Qi smiled. Good name. Heaven Mending, Heaven Mending. Who knows how many gamblers lost so much that they went bankrupt? How many of them would be able to fill up the hole and leave unscathed? Xiao Ri seemed to be quite famous. On the way, many cultivators bowed to him. Even the workers of Heaven Mending Pavilion stood up and bowed when they saw Xiao Tian. Little brother Ning, are there any heavenly source stones you like? Xiao Ri brought Ning Qi and the others around. Seeing that Ning Qi and the others did not plan to buy anything, they became a little anxious. Senior Xiao Ri, the heavenly source stones here are indeed not bad. Ning Qi smiled ambiguously. He used his heavenly source eye to see through the few heavenly source stones that he liked. These few heavenly source stones were sold for very high prices, ranging from 5 to 10 million. In this floor, they could be considered the best. However, only 10 million could be sold. The one that cost 10 million could be sold at a high price, and whoever bought the rest would jump off a building. Deacon Xiao Ri, you are here to buy heavenly source stones again? 2 figures suddenly walked over. The young man who spoke had a frivolous expression, and a trace of disdain could be seen in his eyes. The other middle-aged man did not speak. However, the arrogance on his face could be seen even from a few hundred meters away. Seeing this, Xiao Ri's expression instantly turned gloomy. When he saw the arrogant middle-aged man, his eyes were slightly startled and a trace of bewilderment flashed across his eyes. So it's Deacon Yen Yang. What a coincidence! Xiao Ri smiled insincerely and nodded. Then, he looked at the arrogant middle-aged man and smiled. Greetings, Master Hai. I heard that a few days ago, Master Hai cut out an elephant dragon fruit worth 30 million. Congratulations! Deacon Xiao Ri is too courteous. Master Hai smiled. His gaze swept across Ning Qi and the others. Seeing that they were only immortal palace cultivators, he had no intention of greeting them. I still have some matters to take care of. Goodbye. Xiao Ri smiled and prepared to leave with Ning Qi and the others. Hold on. Deacon Xiao Ri must be planning to buy heavenly source stones today. Why don't I ask Master Hai to help you? Otherwise, you will lose so much that you don't dare to step out for a few months like last time. Deacon Yen Yang smiled faintly and didn't conceal the provocation in his words. A trace of anger flashed across Xiao Ri's eyes. You dare to talk about Deputy City Lord? Chapter 34-27. Presumptuous. Yen Yang Deacon revealed an innocent expression. When did I dare to presumptuously talk about Vice City Lord? Am I not speaking the truth? Master Hai smiled. That is the truth. Xiao Ri Deacon, please don't be too calculative. He paused. Since Xiao Ri Deacon still has matters to attend to, let's not disturb him. Yen Yang Deacon, let's go up? Didn't Heaven Mending Pavilion receive a few high-quality heavenly origin stones? If we don't leave now, others might get them first. That's right. Yen Yang Deacon smiled and nodded. Then, he glanced at Xiao Ri Deacon and followed Master Hai to the second floor of Heaven Mending Pavilion. Xiao Ri Deacon's expression darkened as he looked at the two's backs. He was a little suspicious. High-quality heavenly origin stones? Why didn't anyone inform him? Coincidentally, a heaven-mending pavilion cultivator walked by. Xiao Ri immediately stopped him and asked, Manager Xiao Ri, 7 heavenly origin stones were delivered late last night. I heard that they came from the tomb of a great emperor. For the sake of purchasing these 7 heavenly origin stones, Heaven Mending Pavilion spent at least 300 million. Today, even the great consecrator from the City Lord's manor came. All the heavenly origin masters are currently on the second floor, admiring those heavenly origin stones. That cultivator said in a low voice. There's actually such a thing. Deacon Xiao Ri's face turned extremely ugly. As a cultivator of the Vice City Lord's faction who had studied the heavenly source stone, he shouldn't have only found out about this today. Unless the Vice City Lord no longer trusted him because of the previous incident. Thinking of this, Xiao Ri Deacon's face twitched a few times. Senior Xiao Ri, since there are better heavenly origin stones on the second floor, why don't we go up and take a look? Ning Qi smiled. Sure. Xiaoye and the other 3 immediately exchanged glances. Just now, that heaven-mending pavilion cultivator said that there were many important figures gathered on the second floor. Since even the heavenly origin master from the City Lord's mansion had come, it was very likely that the Vice City Lord was their mission objective. Their objective was also here. Thinking of this, the 4 were both worried and excited. That's right. Xiao Ri Deacon suddenly reacted. Wasn't there a heavenly origin master next to him? Although this heavenly origin master's cultivation was very low and was only an immortal palace cultivator, according to his subordinate's message, he had a certain level of strength. He didn't know, but he was sure that it was stronger than him. Deacon Xiao Ri's eyes were burning with passion. Little brother, let's go to the second floor. If you can help me gain some face in front of the crowd, I will help you as long as it's not a disgraceful act in Tianlang City. Ning Qi smiled but didn't say anything. In Xiaori Deacon's eyes, Xiaori's expression became unfathomable and his confidence grew. Second floor of Butian Pavilion. When Ning Qi and the others arrived, the entrance to one of the halls was heavily guarded. There were 2 guards with solemn expressions and sharp eyes. The guards' cultivation level was similar to Deacon Xiaori. They were both Karma Realm primary stage cultivators. The 2 of you, is the Deputy City Lord also inside? Deacon Xiaori cupped his hands and asked. The 2 looked at Xiaori Deacon indifferently and then at Ning Qi and the others. One of them said slowly, Vice City Lord is inside. Apart from the Vice City Lord, what about the City Lord? Deacon Xiaori hesitated for a moment before asking. The City Lord did not come today. However, Deacon Xiaori, I'm afraid that the Vice City Lord does not wish to see you. Today, all the Heavenly Origin Masters of the major factions are here. The Vice City Lord has also invited a Heavenly Origin Master from the outside world. Deacon Xiaori, it's best not to enter. One of the guards said indifferently. This please report to the Vice City Lord. This little brother is a Heavenly Origin Master that I invited. He has good eyesight and I hope that he can help the Vice City Lord. Deacon Xiaori's eyes revealed a fawning expression. As he spoke, a Qian Kuan ring fell into the hands of the guard. The 2 guards were slightly startled and looked at each other. One of them used his divine sense to scan the Qian Kuan ring and his lips curled into a faint smile. Deacon Xiaori, please wait a moment. After speaking, he turned around and entered the hall. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he returned to the entrance. Deacon Xiaori was a little nervous. If he couldn't even enter the hall today, he would have missed a chance to regain the Vice City Lord's trust. The Vice City Lord said to let you in. The guard smiled faintly. Deacon Xiaori heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. After expressing his gratitude, he brought Ning Qi and the others into the main hall. As he walked, he transmitted his voice to everyone. Those 2 are the personal guards of the Vice City Lord. Since the City Lord isn't here today, the highest position in the main hall is them. Vice City Lord and the Heavenly Origin Master from the City Lord's mansion, don't say anything. Just watch my eyes. At the center of the hall was a group of cultivators. Attendant Yin Yang and Master Hai were among them. Among these cultivators, there were 7 or 8 cultivators who seemed to be Heavenly Origin Masters. They were carefully examining the 7 Heavenly Origin stones that were as tall as a person. Shi Zhe stood a little further back. Shi Xiaoye and the rest immediately saw the mission target, the Vice City Lord of Tianlang City, the Rebirth Realm expert. The 4 of them couldn't help but feel their breathing quicken as they subconsciously looked towards Ning Qi. Seeing Ning Qi's calm expression, their hearts calmed down. A little bit. Why is he here? When the Yin Yang deacon heard the commotion behind him, he couldn't help but turn around. When he saw Ning Qi's group, a trace of displeasure flashed through his eyes. Subordinate greets Vice City Lord. The Xiaori deacon brought Ning Qi and the rest to the Vice City Lord and respectfully bowed. The commotion didn't affect the Heavenly Origin Masters, but the cultivators of the other factions all looked over. When they saw that Ning Qi and the rest were Immortal Palace cultivators, their brows furrowed. The Vice City Lord of Tianlang City looked like a brute, but his expression was very calm. When he opened and closed his eyes, there would be a flash of light. He gave the Xiaori deacon an indifferent glance before his gaze landed on Ning Qi and the rest. These are the Heavenly Origin Masters you invited? When did Heavenly Origin Masters become so common? The Xiaori deacon hurriedly said, Vice City Lord, you are mistaken. Only this little brother is. The rest are with little brother. You are a Heavenly Origin Master? The Deputy City Lord of Celestial Wolf City looked at Ning Qi. He was a head taller than Ning Qi, so there was a sense of superiority in his gaze. Yes. Chapter 34-28. The moment the elder spoke, the heavenly origin masters returned to their respective factions. Their lips moved slightly, evidently discussing the results of their appraisal of the heavenly origin stones. A middle-aged man with a cold expression walked back to the Vice City Lord of Celestial Wolf City. After glancing at Ning-Chi and the others indifferently, he communicated with the Vice City Lord of Celestial Wolf City. However, both of them were transmitting their voices, so Ning-Chi and the others could not hear them. A trace of anxiety flashed across Xiao Ri's eyes. He hurriedly gave Ning-Chi a look. "Little brother Ning, quickly take a look at those heavenly origin stones." "Senior Xiao Ri, don't worry. I have already looked through them," Ning-Chi replied with a smile. "Finished looking through?" Xiao Ri's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Ning-Chi did not even step forward to take a closer look and stood far away. Moreover, only a few dozen breaths had passed since he entered the hall. How did he finish looking through them? Could it be that this brat is just bluffing and is not a heavenly origin master? Xiao Ri's expression instantly turned ugly. At this moment, a heavenly origin master who came alone pointed at a heavenly origin stone and said, "This heavenly origin stone is worth 60 million yuan essence stones. I will bid on behalf of the City Lord." "He is the consecrator of the City Lord's residence?" Ning-Chi's eyes moved. The other party had a sage-like appearance. However, the arrogance in his eyes could not be concealed. The moment he spoke, the other factions exchanged glances. In the end, no one chose to bid against him, allowing him to take the first heavenly origin stone. Subsequently, the Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City did not bid. The other factions, on the other hand, were bidding fiercely. One heavenly origin stone was directly raised to 120 million. This was an extremely large sum. Even a rebirth stage expert would hesitate if they wanted to take out such a sum. As for the price of 120 million, it was also from Master Hai's mouth. After he made his bid, no one else made another bid. "Everyone, it seems that I will be taking this heavenly origin stone." Master Hai smiled at the crowd. "Hold on, Master Hai took the heavenly origin stone previously. This time, it should be my turn, right?" The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City suddenly smiled. After speaking, he smiled at the old man. "Pavilion Master, I bid 130 million. So this old man is Heaven Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master." Ning-Chi could not help but take a few more glances at the old man, before turning to look at the heavenly origin stone. A trace of mockery flashed in his eyes. There was indeed something inside the heavenly origin stone, and there was quite a lot of it. A total of 13 pill bottles were sealed inside, and each bottle had 7 pills. 8 blood essence pills, a total of about 100 pills. According to the market price, it was worth 5 million. But compared to the price of 130 million, even if he sold it for 5 million, it would still be a huge loss. Deputy City Lord bids 130 million. Does Master Hai still want to increase the price? Heaven Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master beamed at Master Hai. The Flaming Sun Deacon, who was standing beside Master Hai, glanced at the Deputy City Lord and suddenly laughed in a low voice. "Deputy City Lord, I specially asked Master Hai to help the City Lord search for Tianyuan stones. I wonder, what right do you have to speak?" The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City looked at Yen Yang Deacon indifferently, forcing him to swallow his words. "Consecrator Nangua is buying Tianyuan stones for the City Lord. You are just a small deacon. How dare you use the City Lord's name to intimidate others? You are just trying to suck up to him. Do you think I should give in to you?" The smile on the Vice City Lord's face became colder and colder. Yen Yang Deacon was slightly startled when he heard this. He then laughed dryly and said, "Deputy City Lord has misunderstood. That is not what I meant. However, let us bid fairly." After speaking, he glanced at Master Hai. Master Hai nodded his head and said, 140 million. 140 million. When Sun Shu and the rest heard this price, they could not help but be speechless. A Tianyuan stone of this quality would at most be worth 70 to 80 million in the divine Luo realm. Who would have thought that the price of a Tianyuan stone in the greedy wolf realm would be so much higher than in the divine Luo realm? If I had the ability of the head secretary and could freely travel between the two realms, I would be able to make a fortune even as a peddler. Sun Shu could not help but fantasize in his heart. 150 million. Before the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City could even open his mouth, the Heavenly Origin Master he invited had already made his bid. It seems that both of you are very optimistic about this Tianyuan stone. Are the others interested? The Heaven Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master said with a smile. Although the City Lord had 60% of the shares in Heaven Mending Pavilion, business was still business. He would not give the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City a discount because of this. On the contrary, the more he sold, the more he could get from the City Lord. The other powers were initially a little hesitant. They hadn't prepared a lot of funds and were planning to act later. However, the Heavenly Origin Master that the Vice City Lord of Tianlang City had invited back was extremely famous in the northern border region. The people of Jianghu gave him the nickname Northern Border God. Master Hai was one of the top 3 Heavenly Origin Masters in Heavenly Wolf City. Therefore, both of them were very optimistic about this Tianyuan stone. This proved that this Tianyuan stone was indeed valuable. When the Heaven Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master finished speaking, a few other powers joined in the bidding. The Northern Border God and Master Hai's expressions turned ugly. Only the Southern Gua Consecrator from the City Lord's residence remained calm. After bidding for the first Tianyuan stone, he did not bid again and only watched indifferently. 160 million. 170 million. 180 million. The price continued to rise, and very quickly, the starting price of 70 million Heavenly Origin stones had been pushed to 200 million. This price caused many forces to choose to withdraw. Even the divine eyes of the northern borderline and Master Hai were a little cautious at this moment. The capital of 200 million was a little too much. It was very likely that the items cut out would not make a loss or profit. Be more cautious. 220 million. Master Hai suddenly spoke. After speaking, he looked at the Deputy City Lord of Celestial Wolf City and the Divine Eye of Northern Borderline. He smiled and said, "This price is already the limit. If the two of you add another 10 million, I will let you have it. You've already raised the price. Even if you offer a price, you won't be able to earn much." The Northern Border Divine Eye sneered. After a pause, he looked at the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City. "Deputy City Lord, let them have this Heavenly Origin stone. I said that this Heavenly Source stone is mine, so it's mine," the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City said indifferently. He cast a cold glance at Master Hai and the Flaming Sun Deacon. Just when he was about to offer a price, a voice suddenly sounded behind him. "I don't want this Heavenly Origin stone even if it's 10 million. Ning Qi said indifferently. Brother Ning has finally made a move. Sun Shu and the rest instantly became nervous. If Ning Qi made a mistake, not only would they not be able to get close to the target of the mission, they might not even be able to walk out of this place alive. Little brother Ning, you Shaori Deacon looked at Ning Qi with a dumbfounded expression. A trace of regret surged in his heart. Who is this guy? What an arrogant tone. Not even 10 million? Everyone looked at Ning Qi with a hint of mockery and anger on their faces. Chapter 34-29. Vice City Lord, I said that this Heavenly Origin stone is not even worth 10 million. Ning Qi smiled. Arrogant words. This Heavenly Origin stone's starting price is 70 million, and you said that it's not even worth 10 million? Since when did a mere immortal palace cultivator dare to spout such nonsense here? Shaori Deacon, why did you bring such a person here? What kind of trash is this? Can a dog enter this place? Before the Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City could speak, Yen Yang Deacon had already seized the opportunity and pointed the spearhead at Shaori Deacon. Master Hai and the other Heavenly Origin Masters also revealed a trace of mockery. Heaven-mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master glared at Ning Qi and Shaori Deacon as if he wanted to devour them. Vice City Lord, as Shaori Deacon quickly wanted to explain, but the Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City looked at him coldly, causing him to swallow his words. You say that you're a Heavenly Origin Master, but your words are not like the Heavenly Origin Masters I know. Why are you so sure that this Heavenly Origin Stone is not even worth 10 million? Could it be that all the Heavenly Origin Masters here, including Master Nanguar, are inferior to you? An immortal palace cultivator? The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City said indifferently. Yen Yang Deacon's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile as he looked at Shaori Deacon, rejoicing in Ning Qi's misfortune. Previously you made the Vice City Lord feel embarrassed, and now you're doing it again. Shaori, oh Shaori, you're courting death. As long as Ning Qi could not answer, he could already imagine the result. In terms of cultivation, I naturally cannot compare to the seniors here. However, in terms of stone gambling, everyone here— Ning Qi smiled and said indifferently, all trash. The moment he said this, the entire place went silent. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at Ning Qi with their mouths agape. Even Shi Xiaoye and the other three were shocked as their bodies stiffened. Crazy, he's crazy, I'm going to die because of him. Shaori Deacon looked at Ning Qi in despair. How dare you? After a short moment of silence, Grandmaster Hai and the other Heavenly Origin Masters were the first to react, glaring angrily at Ning Qi. Even Grandmaster Nangua, who seemed to have nothing to do with this matter, slowly turned to look at Ning Qi with a fierce look in his eyes. Men, drag this kid away and suppress him first. Don't let him die so easily. Heaven-mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master said in a stern voice. They were all early-stage Karma Realm cultivators. They stared coldly at Ning Qi and were about to attack when Grandmaster Nangua raised his hand. Wait! Grandmaster Nangua, this kid is so arrogant. Do you want to personally teach him a lesson? The Heaven-mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master looked toward Nangua with a respectful expression. Grandmaster Nangua smiled and waved his hand, signaling the guards to leave. Then, he looked at Ning Qi and smiled. You're saying that I'm also trash? Ning Qi smiled and said, yes. Sun Shu was dumbstruck as he stared at Ning Qi. Suddenly, a wave of regret surged in his heart. He shouldn't have followed Ning Qi here today. No, he should have stopped Ning Qi from coming here. Otherwise, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Let alone today, whether he could leave or not, whether he could live or not was just an extravagant dream. Dark Parliament Headquarters Building. After the leaders of the various regions saw this scene, they all looked at each other with strange expressions. Even Jiao Kuan's expression changed. I didn't expect little brother Ning to be so courageous. He dared to call them trash in front of so many fourth-step cultivators, ha ha ha. Commander Yinzhen suddenly laughed loudly. The Bloodtier commander smiled bitterly and said, in terms of stone gambling, they are indeed inferior to little brother Ning. Even Zhe Duo is inferior. However, little brother Ning's actions are very risky. He was already considering whether to call Ning Qi back in advance. If such a stone gambling master died in the greedy wolf realm, it would definitely be a great loss to the Dark Parliament. To him, it would be an even greater loss. The rewards are also great. If he succeeds, haha, Commander Yinzhen smiled and didn't say anything else. Jiao Kuan and the others still didn't know the true purpose of this mission. Only commanders like them would know a thing or two. If Ning Qi succeeded, he would definitely be valued by the Deputy City Lord. Then, no one would be able to defeat Ning Qi in the evaluation of this mission. Master Nangua, among all of us, you have the highest attainment in this Tao. If this kid even insults you, then I'm afraid we are even worse than trash in his eyes." Master Hai laughed sinisterly. "Deputy City Lord, why did your subordinate bring a madman to mess things up? I won't be insulted for no reason. You must give me an explanation for today's matter." "The northern border divine," I said indifferently. Although he was invited by the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City, and his cultivation was only at the great perfection of Karma Realm, his status was not inferior to the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City. When he heard that even the northern border divine I wanted to investigate this matter, Deacon Xiao Ri's legs immediately turned soft. "Master Hai, what you said is exactly what I'm thinking. However, if I compare you to trash, then I'm being too arrogant." Ning Qi smiled. Master Hai's expression changed when he heard this. He was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. "This kid must be skinned alive to vent my anger. Let me think of a better way to make his death a little more painful. I have a medicine that will make him feel unbearably itchy after he takes it. The itch will last for dozens of years before his flesh rots and he dies. Even if a Karma Realm cultivator takes it, there is no antidote. This medicine is worth 100,000 origin stones. I will give it to him for free. Take it. Everyone, please calm down." Master Nangua waved his hand indifferently. However, the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City suddenly became suspicious when he saw Ning Qi remain calm in the face of such a condemnation. "You said that this heavenly origin stone is not worth 10 million. How about this? I will personally cut it open. If it is really not worth 10 million, then our eyesight is indeed weaker than yours. If it is worth more than 10 million, then you will dig out your eyes and give them to me." Master Nangua smiled at Ning Qi. "Sure." Ning Qi smiled. "No. Then what about the price of this heavenly origin stone?" Butian Pavilion Master immediately objected. "If the Deputy City Lord doesn't want this heavenly origin stone, then I will buy it. Naturally, I will pay for it. However, I will give it to the City Lord." Yen Yang Deacon smiled and said, "All right." Butian Pavilion Master nodded. He looked at the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City with a questioning look. "Then I will give this to Yen Yang Deacon. After all, the City Lord's birthday is coming soon." The Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City glanced at Ning Qi and smiled. Soon, both parties completed the transaction. The heavenly origin stone became the possession of Yen Yang Deacon. "Master Nangua, let me open this heavenly origin stone." Master Hai suddenly stepped forward and smiled. "Get lost." Chapter 34:30. When Master Nangua started to dissect the heavenly origin stone, the most nervous ones were none other than Deacon Xiao Ri, Shi Xiaoye, and the others. The former was because he was the one who brought Ning Qi here. If Ning Qi made a mistake, coupled with his shameless boasting just now, not only would Ning Qi die, he would also suffer misfortune. The latter was on the same boat as Ning Qi. If Ning Qi lived, they would live, and if Ning Qi died, they would also die. Brother Ning's intuition must be accurate. Nothing can come out. Nothing can come out. Sun Shu prayed in his heart. Not long later, a third of the heavenly origin stone had been dissected. Even Deacon Yen Yang and the others started to feel nervous. How could they justify the price of a heavenly origin stone if it didn't contain any rare treasures? The Vice City Lord of Tianlang City suddenly looked at Ning Qi's face. Seeing that Ning Qi was still as calm as before, he immediately became suspicious. It's out, it's out. Finally, traces of a few pill bottles could be seen. The breathing of the cultivators and the heavenly origin masters they had hired started to quicken as they looked at Master Nangua's hand nervously. 10 minutes later, the heavenly origin stone was completely dissected. There were 13 bottles on the ground. From the style of the bottles, they could tell that they were passed down from a long time ago. Even now, there was still a dense amount of spiritual qi lingering on them. What kind of pills are inside? Everyone was filled with anticipation. However, Master Nangua's expression suddenly changed as he looked at Ningqi. Master Nangua, why don't you open the pill bottles? Master Hai couldn't help but ask. I'm not looking, Master Nangua said expressionlessly. Not looking? Everyone was confused. Why wasn't he looking? Deacon Yen Yang suddenly had a bad feeling. Before he could say anything, Master Nangua cupped his fists at Ningqi and said, "Little brother, I am ashamed of my inferiority." Finishing his words, he immediately left. How could this be? A hint of astonishment flashed through the eyes of all the heavenly Genesis masters present. Grandmaster Nangua had actually said that he was inferior to this arrogant brat? Master Hai suddenly walked to the bottles and opened them one by one. Soon, a familiar smell filled everyone's noses. The smell of blood essence pills. Could it be that all these bottles contain blood essence pills? The divine eyes of the northern borderline were stunned. 10 breaths of time later, the Yen-Yang deacon stood there, covered in sweat. His face was pale and his lips were blue. He had already determined that the 7 or 8 bottles were all filled with blood essence pills. There were around 100 of them, worth 5 million essence stones. Perhaps the cultivators of the item could raise the price by several 100,000, but compared to the high price of 220 million origin essence stones, these several million origin essence stones could only be considered as a drop in the ocean. It could be said that the Yen-Yang deacon's origin essence stones was a complete loss. The northern border divine I sucked in a breath of cold air in his heart. He suddenly felt somewhat fortunate. If the heavenly Wolf City's Vice City Lord had bought this heavenly origin stone, his reputation would have plummeted. Any heavenly origin master who sold such a heavenly origin stone would have suffered a great loss in a short period of time. No one would ever trust him again. He could only rely on his future achievements to wash away the shame. Ha ha ha, 100 blood essence pills, at most 5 to 6 million, no wonder Brother Ning said that it is not worth 10 million essence stones. Of course it's not worth it. Shaori Deacon laughed in joy. This feeling was as if he had suddenly returned to heaven from hell. We've won the bet. Sun Shu and the rest looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. Soon after, they were overjoyed. This time, they would definitely be able to get close to the Heavenly Wolf City's Vice City Lord. Is this kid's judgment really that accurate? Even we, Grandmaster Nangua, made a mistake with that heavenly source stone just now. We didn't expect that it would only yield such a small amount of blood essence pills. If it could yield 20 times that amount of blood essence pills, then it would be possible. If he could get 20 times that amount of blood essence pills, this is luck, right? I've never heard of anyone being able to determine the true value of a heavenly origin stone with just a few glances. The heavenly origin masters present looked at Ningqi with a trace of seriousness, suspicion, fear, confusion, and all sorts of other complicated expressions. I didn't expect that even Grandmaster Nangua would be ashamed of his eyesight. Good, ha ha. Shaori, you've introduced me to an amazing kid today. The Heavenly Wolf City's Vice City Lord suddenly laughed. Seeing this, Shaori immediately put on a fawning smile. His heart was filled with gratitude towards Ningqi. After this battle, he would be able to regain the trust of the Heavenly Wolf City's Vice City Lord. Seeing the Vice City Lord laugh in such a manner, the Yen-Yang attendant finally reacted. His lips trembled in anger as he glared at Ningqi, gnashing his teeth. It's just a blind cat bumping into a dead mouse. This doesn't prove that he's really a Heaven Genesis master. Yen-Yang, are you still so stubborn? I brought Brother Ning here to introduce him to the Vice City Lord. Do you think that I would bring anyone to the Vice City Lord's side? Shaori Deacon said with a smile. After a brief pause, he continued, You've lost over 200 million origin essence stones. I didn't even get half of what you lost last time. Yin-yang Deacon, if you're really depressed, why don't you leave first? The smile in the Vice City Lord's eyes grew wider. Previously, he and Xiao-Ri had lost face together. This time, he had finally regained his dignity. You good, very good. Losing is losing. Isn't it normal for there to be gains and losses in stone gambling? As for leaving, you don't have to be in such a rush. Don't you still have 5 heavenly origin stones? Yin-yang Deacon suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a fake smile. With these words, everyone looked at Ningqi again. The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City also wanted to test Ningqi again, in case he really guessed the result of the heavenly origin stone out of luck. Little brother, since Xiao-Ri has recommended you to me, why don't you help me pick out these 5 heavenly origin stones? According to the rules, I'll give you 30%, excluding the capital. The Vice City Lord said with a smile. Only 30%? The Bloodtier commander gave 50%, and that's not even the capital, Sun Shu cursed in his heart. I want 50%. Ningqi said. Everyone thought that Ningqi would agree as this was the rules. The Divine Eye of the Northern Border would only get 30%, but no one expected Ningqi to ask for 50%. 50%? Sky Wolf City's Deputy City Lord's expression changed. Xiao-Ri instantly became nervous, and he looked at Ningqi with a little complaint. Chapter 34-31. Perhaps it was because everyone had misjudged the last heavenly origin stone, but after this, everyone became much more cautious. When the Heaven-Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master saw this, he immediately angrily glared at Ningqi. If it wasn't for Ningqi, these heavenly origin stones today would definitely be worth it. Sell it for a high price. This heavenly source stone, compared to the previous one, it's also of excellent quality. The starting price is 60 million, everyone, please start bidding. The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Lord pointed at the next heavenly origin stone and said, Deputy City Lord, this one is not bad. It's worth buying. Northern Borderline God glanced at Ningqi. Seeing that Ningqi did not say anything, he spoke. Little brother, what do you think? The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City looked at Ningqi and smiled. 60 million is too high. Ningqi smiled and shook his head. Bastard. 60 million is only the starting price. Do you think it's too high? The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. What? Ningqi glanced at him and said with a faint smile, Do you still force people to buy and sell here? Pavilion Master, our Heaven-Mending Pavilion is naturally not a place where we force people to buy or sell. Since little brother says that the price is too high, then I will not compete for this heavenly origin stone. The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City said lightly. Deputy City Lord, we can still fight for this heavenly source stone. The divine eyes of the Northern Borderline frowned. Even if this one is bought, there are still 4 left. Don't worry, sir. The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City said with a faint smile. The Northern Divine Eye immediately shut his mouth when he heard this, but his expression was ugly. He was the Heavenly Genesis Master that the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City had invited, but in the end, the Northern Divine Eye had listened to a junior of unknown origin and refused to fight for the Heavenly Genesis Stone. Haha, it's fine if Deputy City Lord doesn't want to compete. The Heaven-Mending Pavilion's Pavilion Master laughed, and did not seem to mind. He believed that with the quality of these heavenly origin stones, there would naturally be people who would offer a price. As expected, after a while, the price was pushed to 100 million. However, compared to the previous heavenly origin stone, this price was not considered high. It was only 40 million origin essence stones higher than the starting price. When the cultivator who had offered 100 million saw that no one else was bidding, he smiled and said, I'm lucky. It's just a heavenly origin stone, and you're all scared out of your wits? Everyone smiled, and their gazes were slightly strange, but no one spoke. When the heaven-mending pavilion's pavilion master saw this, he could only complete this transaction with an ashen face. An hour later, when the cultivator looked at the empty heavenly origin stone that had been disintegrated into grains of sand, he felt as if his heart was bleeding. Just now, Yen Yang Deacon had at least 100 blood essence pills to cover his losses. But now, he had spent 100 million origin essence stones to buy a heavenly source stone, yet he couldn't cut out anything? Everyone looked at this scene with schadenfreude. However, their eyes immediately flashed with a hint of rejoice. They were glad that they didn't snatch it. The divine eye of the northern borderline looked a little sluggish. He had told the deputy city lord of the celestial wolf city that he had to buy the first heavenly origin stone. It was definitely something good. Then he suffered a loss. In the end, he lost the second one again. Although the Sky Wolf City's vice city lord did not say anything, the northern border god I felt very ashamed. This kid got it right twice in a row? Just which heavenly Genesis master did he learn from? What cultivation method did he learn that allowed him to see so accurately that both heavenly Genesis stones were wasted? The way everyone looked at Ningqi had undergone a huge change. Deacon Xiari was so excited that his hands were trembling. He had bet on the right treasure this time. Brother Ning is really discerning. Sun Shu could not help but sigh in his heart. Looks like I've escaped yet another calamity. The Heaven Wolf City's vice city lord gave Ningqi a deep look, then smiled towards the Heaven Mending Pavilion's pavilion master. Heaven Mending Pavilion's pavilion master's face was a bit ugly. 2 consecutive heavenly origin stones was a huge loss, and this could easily cause Heaven Mending Pavilion's reputation to drop. Moreover, these 7 heavenly origin stones were all bought by him. If this caused Heaven Mending Pavilion's business to drop, then he would have to take responsibility. It was on his body. The headquarters of the Dark Council. The leaders of the various regions were all speechless at this moment. Ningqi's performance was really too unexpected. Although the Bloodtier commander had previously said that Ningqi was extremely good at stone gambling, it was just hearsay. Now, he had personally witnessed Ningqi's prowess. With this kind of ability, even if he could not advance to the Karma realm, he would still be looked up to wherever he went. Jiu Kuan, can you let me have this kid? I really intend to take him as my disciple. Wu Xiang suddenly said. What a joke. Jiu Kuan laughed. Wu Xiang did not speak again. He just couldn't help but test Ningqi. In his heart, he also knew that Jiu Kuan would not let Ningqi leave. Moreover, the Bloodtier commander was eyeing Ningqi covetously from the side. It was not his turn to take Ningqi as a disciple. What a pity. If I could take this kid as my disciple, would I still have to worry about not having origin essence stones? Wu Xiang sighed as if he was talking to himself. Commander Yin Zhen's eyes moved slightly as he thoughtfully looked at the Bloodtier commander. After 2 tests, the deputy city lord of Heavenly Wolf City already believed in Ningqi's strength. However, in the following competition, an awkward scene occurred. As long as the deputy city lord of Heavenly Wolf City made a bid, the cultivators of other forces would also make a bid. Even if the price was pushed to 200 million, they still did not give up. As for Master Hai and the other heavenly origin masters, they silently stood there without saying a word. They had already been slapped in the face by Ningqi several times today. No one wanted to be slapped by Ningqi again. That would be a disgrace to their reputation. 250 million. The deputy city lord of Heavenly Wolf City coldly looked at a cultivator who had already reached the perfect heavens mandate realm. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other. The pavilion master of Butian Pavilion could not help but let out a sigh. The way he looked at Ningqi had already softened a lot. In his opinion, this heavenly origin stone could only be sold for 120 million. But now, because of Ningqi, he had actually bid 250 million. He had already made up for the loss of the third stone. As long as there were sales, he would not care about Ningqi's rude words. 260 million. The perfect heavens mandate realm cultivator gritted his teeth. 2. Deputy City Lord, there's no need to bid anymore. Ningqi smiled and shook his head. The Deputy City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City immediately smiled and said to the cultivator, I'll let you have this heavenly origin stone. The cultivator suddenly felt a chill run down his back. Could it be that he had been scammed? With this thought in mind, he hurriedly looked at Ningqi. Little brother, how is this heavenly origin stone? Half of it. Ningqi smiled. Half of it? The other party did not know why, but he actually let out a sigh of relief. How could he be so accurate? Master Hai's eyes flashed with a trace of disbelief. An hour later. Chapter 34-32. In the blink of an eye, several days had passed. A few days ago, because Ningqi had helped the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City avoid calamity and obtained a heavenly origin stone that had greatly increased in value, there was an endless stream of guests for the next few days. All the major forces wanted to invite Ningqi to become their heavenly origin master. For example, a Karma Realm bodyguard. A salary of 50 million origin stones a year. A 50% commission for every heavenly origin stone. In a short period of time, Ningqi's name spread throughout the heavenly origin stone circle in Sky Wolf City. He was even more popular than heavenly origin masters like Master Hai. However, Ningqi didn't accept any invitations. He also rejected the Vice City Lord's invitation. However, as long as the Vice City Lord was willing to pay a 60% commission, Ningqi would make a move once. However, Ningqi would only make 10 moves a month. This time, Ningqi would usually be asked to make a move, and it was usually a very large deal. City Lord's Mansion. Have you found out? The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City said plainly. Deacon Shaori half knelt on the ground and said softly, I have, but I can't find out his background. Immortal Palace Lord's cultivation is stronger than Nangua's. His background is definitely not simple. The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City said. Vice City Lord, this kid's cultivation isn't high. Even if his background is mysterious, it's not a big deal. What we want is his ability in stone gambling. Deacon Shaori said softly. That's not all I want. Rather than relying on others, why don't I control this ability myself? The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City sneered. The meaning behind his words was clear. Deacon Shaori was startled. Before he could speak, the Vice City Lord said with a smile, but there's no need to be anxious. Get someone to investigate this kid's background. During this period of time, we'll see what level his attainment in the Heavenly Origin Stone has reached. A few days later, Deacon Shaori came to the inn and invited Ningqi and the others to the City Lord's mansion. When Ningqi and the others walked out of the inn and were about to board the carriage, Sun Shu was slightly stunned. He pointed at one of the coachmen and said, Komodo's expression changed. He looked at Ningqi and the others in disbelief. The people he came to pick up today were actually them? There were a few cultivators from District 5 with Komodo. When they saw Ningqi and the others, their faces turned pale. Hey, little brother, you know this coachman? Shaori Deacon's eyes moved slightly as he smiled casually. I don't know him. He looks like a friend of mine, but my friend is much more handsome than him. It can't be him, Sun Shu said with a smile. In his heart, however, he broke out in cold sweat. He had almost given himself away just now. Komodo's heart was filled with anger, but he did not dare to show it. He forced a smile on his face. So that's how it is. Everyone, please get in the car. This time, the Deputy City Master obtained a Heavenly Origin Stone, but he is not sure about it. Therefore, he wanted to ask Brother Ning to take a look. Shaori Deacon smiled. So he made use of this. Komodo and the others looked at Ning-Chi with a complicated expression. They were unwilling to accept this. They could only be coachmen after entering the city lord's mansion, but Ning-Chi had become the deputy city lord's guest. Not only was he ahead of them, but he was also left far behind. A few carriages entered the city master's residence. When they got off the carriages and left, Ning-Chi and the others did not even look at Komodo and the others. They chatted happily with Shaori Deacon as they walked towards the deputy city master's residence. Komodo, you said that we can get close to the deputy city master first and get the news of his treasure. However, it seems like Ning-Chi and the others will complete the task faster than us. One of the coachmen said softly. Komodo looked around and snorted coldly. The deputy city lord only invited him to appraise the heavenly source stone. He doesn't live in the city lord's mansion. As for us, we are in a favorable position. Furthermore, even if he gets the news, we still have a chance. There are 100 people in this promotion quota. It is enough. Little brother Ning is here, come and sit. The deputy city master waved at Ning-Chi passionately. When Ning-Chi sat down, Shi Xiaoye and the others stood behind him. Other than the deputy city master, Shaori Deacon, Ning-Chi and the others, there was another cultivator in the house. This cultivator had been sizing Ning-Chi up since he entered the house. Deputy city master, Shaori Deacon said that there is a heavenly origin stone for me to take a look? Ning-Chi smiled. That's right. Little brother Ning, let me first introduce you. This is fellow Taoist Tudwa, a heavenly origin stone merchant from a distant territory. He brought a heavenly origin stone with him, and it is very strange. I have never seen such a heavenly origin stone before, so I wanted to invite little brother Ning. Check it out. The vice city lord of Heavenly Wolf City smiled. Deputy city master, is he really a heavenly origin master? Isn't his cultivation a little too low? Tudwa said indifferently. He was a rebirth initial stage expert. Although his cultivation was much weaker than the Sky Wolf City's vice city lord, who was at the rebirth Great Circle realm, he was still at the rebirth realm. An expert at this realm was enough to become a hegemon in the god Luo world. After all, the strongest cultivator in the greedy wolf world was only at the 5th step. Taoist Tudwa, age does not determine one's ambitions. Little brother Ning is a little young and has not reached the 4th step, but he is outstanding in the Tao of stone gambling. The deputy city master smiled faintly. Is that so? Tudwa smiled. Since that is the case, I will take out that heavenly origin stone and let little brother Ning appraise it. After saying that, he took out a heavenly source stone from his interspatial ring. In fact, it was not a stone, but a statue, because this heavenly source stone was a human-shaped heavenly source stone. There were no signs of artificial carvings on it, but it was naturally formed, with facial features and limbs. Facial features, limbs, and everything. Moreover, its appearance was so good that it could pass off as the real thing. Its skin was so smooth that ordinary people could not compare. This is a heavenly origin stone? Sun Shu was in disbelief. He had never seen a heavenly origin stone like this in all his years of stone gambling. Over at the Darkness Parliament headquarters, Jiu Kun and the rest were shocked when they saw the heavenly origin stone. Xueqiu, have you seen a heavenly origin stone like this before? Could it be a fake deliberately made by the other party to test little brother Ning? Commander Yin Jin frowned. I have not seen it before, but I have heard that a heavenly origin stone like this is probably nurturing an essence soul with an extremely high cultivation. Commander Xueqiu said solemnly. It could be a 4th step cultivator, or a 5th step cultivator. Chapter 34-33. Greedy Wolf World. Skywolf City. The City Lord's residence. Sun Shu and the others could not help but walk up to the human-shaped heavenly stone to examine it. The shock on their faces could not be concealed. Seeing this, Tudwa's lips curled into a faint smile. Ningqi activated his heavenly origin eye, causing golden threads to condense in his pupils. In the end, just as he was about to see what was inside the human-shaped heavenly origin stone, the golden threads in his pupils rapidly disappeared. In less than 3 breaths of time, the golden threads were completely exhausted. Ningqi could only see a black shadow inside. It was also human-shaped. Ningqi did not see what it was exactly. With my cultivation, I can easily see 7 or 8 human-shaped heavenly stones like this. Why did I exhaust the golden threads on just one? At the same time, I can't even see what's inside? Ningqi's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. There was only one reason that could explain this, and that was that the heavenly source stone was nurturing an extremely powerful existence. Perhaps it was a soul, or perhaps it was a primordial numinous treasure. In short, it was of a higher grade than any of the heavens Ningqi had seen so far. An origin stone. Little brother Ning, how is it? The deputy city lord of Skywolf City had been paying attention to Ningqi's expression. He could not help but ask when he saw Ningqi's serious expression. Ningqi smiled and gestured for the deputy city lord to calm down. He then looked at Tudwa. How much are you selling this heavenly stone for? 300 million. Tudwa smiled faintly. 300 million, not a cent less. 300 million. Ningqi muttered. A humanoid heavenly source stone like this is indeed rare. However, the value of a heavenly source stone lies within, not on the surface. This heavenly source stone could possibly contain something that could endanger our safety. 200 million origin essence stones. I can buy it, but if it's 300 million, you can take it back. 200 million? Tudwa sneered and put away the heavenly stone. He said to the deputy city lord, Deputy city lord, it seems that you are not sincere. I won't disturb you any further. I heard that the city lord likes heavenly stones very much. Perhaps he will be willing to buy it. Fellow Tudwa, please wait. Let us discuss it. The deputy city lord said calmly. Tudwa snorted and sat down again. Little brother Ning, are you sure this heavenly origin stone is only worth 200 million? The vice city lord of Celestial Wolf City looked at Ningqi and transmitted his voice. Its true value is naturally above 200 million. However, even I do not know how much more it will be. 300 million is too high. With this capital, I can turn it into 1 billion, or even more. There is no need to gamble on this heavenly origin stone. At the same time, that's because I suspect that the thing inside is an inauspicious object. It might be worthless and might even be harmful to us. Ningqi transmitted his voice. An inauspicious object. The vice city lord of Heavenly Wolf City nodded thoughtfully. The heavenly stone could seal ancient connate spiritual treasures and elixirs. Similarly, it could also seal many dangerous items. Once these heavenly stones were opened, only a few people would die if they were lucky. If they were unlucky, an entire city might perish. Burial. There weren't many heavenly origin stones, and most cultivators wouldn't be so unlucky. Only heavenly origin masters who frequently gambled on stones would have a certain chance of encountering one. Fellow Taoist Tudwa, are you sure you can't sell it for 200 million origin essence stones? The vice city lord of Heavenly Wolf City spoke again. Tudwa coldly sneered and cupped his hands. He stood up and left without saying a word. His heart was clearly filled with anger. What a pity! I really want to see what's inside. The vice city lord of Heavenly Wolf City shook his head with a faint smile. After Tudwa left, Ningqi and the others stayed in the city lord mansion for a few more hours. They had a lunch before bidding their farewells. At the entrance, they bumped into Tudwa again. His expression was ugly, and he let out a cold snort when he saw Ningqi. He turned around and left. From the looks of it, Tudwa hadn't sold the heavenly origin stone. Brother Ning, do you think there's a person inside the heavenly origin stone? Sun Shu suddenly asked on the way back to the inn. Shi Xiaoye and the others also revealed a trace of curiosity. They wanted to hear Ning Qi's detailed analysis. Even if it's a person, it's probably just a corpse. Ning Qi smiled. If it's the corpse of a fifth-step almighty, it's also extremely valuable. We can sell it to those large sects that specialize in refining corpses. They have a great desire for such corpses. Sun Shu sighed. It's a pity that the price is too high. That guy isn't willing to sell it. Otherwise, I really want to see what's inside. How can it transform into a heavenly origin stone that looks so much like a real person? Sometimes, curiosity isn't a good thing. Let's go. We've been here for so long and haven't really strolled around. Let's take a walk today? Ning Qi smiled. All right. Shi Xiaoye smiled and nodded. At night. At the inn. Ning Qi was originally meditating. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and took out a smiling mask. He put it on and walked out of the room. At the same time, Jiu Kun and the others were also meditating and resting. At night, they would no longer stare at the screen. Unless someone had a special hobby. The Dark Parliament won't be watching 24/7, right? Ning Qi comforted himself and walked toward the place he had scouted during the day. His destination was the inn where Tudwa was staying. Not to mention 300 million, even if it was 400 million or 500 million, Ning Qi planned to buy that heavenly origin stone. It was able to use up all the golden threads of the heavenly origin eye, and he could only vaguely see it. Its value could be several times higher than the original amount. Even if the Dark Parliament discovered his actions, Ning Qi would not let it go. 10 minutes later, in a room of a luxurious inn, Tudwa looked coldly at Ning Qi. Who are you? Why are you here? He did not attack immediately because Ning Qi was wearing a smiling mask that concealed his aura. Tudwa could not detect Ning Qi's cultivation. I heard that you have a human-shaped heavenly origin stone. I hope to buy it. Ning Qi said in a hoarse voice. You're from the city lord's mansion? Tu Duo frowned slightly, and the vigilance on his face disappeared. The only people who knew that he had the human-shaped heavenly stone were the people from the city lord's mansion. This was because he had only gone to the city lord's mansion the moment he arrived at Tianlang City. He had planned to go to the other factions tomorrow. He had not expected that someone would come to him that very night. You don't need to know who I am. You sell things and I buy things. That's enough. Ning Qi said calmly. Haha, that's true. Tudwa's eyes revealed a hint of mockery as he said calmly, 300 million origin stones. Cash and goods. It's in here. You can count it. Ning Qi tossed an interspatial ring to Tudwa. After Tudwa caught it, he scanned it with his divine telekinesis. In just 3 breaths, he had already counted it clearly. There were indeed 300 million origin stones. Aren't you afraid that I'll hide this sum of origin stones from you? Tudwa said with a faint smile. You're a businessman. You won't do business that you're not confident in. Ning Qi smiled. Indeed, this is an origin stone. Take it. Chapter 34-34. Quietly returning to his room, Ning Qi sat cross-legged again. He wasn't confident in cutting this heavenly source stone now, so he temporarily stored it in his spatial bag. In the future, when he had the chance and conditions, he would cut it open to see what was inside. Sure enough, it's good to be rich. Ning Qi suddenly sighed in his heart. Ever since he came to Shenluo world, he had been using origin essence stones to open his path. If he was a pauper like the other cultivators, he would probably still be worrying about how to advance to Karma Realm. Even if it was 300 million origin essence stones, Ning Qi could easily take it. If it was any other cultivator, even a rebirth realm expert would probably feel the pinch before they could take it out. If it rose, it would be a great opportunity for ordinary cultivators. But even if they knew that it would definitely rise, they didn't have that much capital, so they naturally wouldn't have such an opportunity. Just as Ningqi returned to his room, in the Dark Parliament's headquarters, Wu Xiang suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the corner of the big screen. That kid just went out? Wu Xiang was slightly startled, and a trace of suspicion flashed in his eyes. If I knew this, I would have kept a close eye on this guy. Wu Xiang felt some regret. Next, he stopped meditating and just silently stared at Ningqi, wanting to see if Ningqi had any other trick. At the same time, he was also analyzing what Ningqi had just gone out to do. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Ningqi used this half a year's time to expand his wallet, and his net worth had already skyrocketed to 8 billion origin essence stones. Shi Xiaoye and the rest also made a small fortune. Even Sun Shu, who often lost in stone gambling, relied on Ningqi's eyesight to earn 100 million origin essence stones in this half a year. Dream Cloud Zhe and Niao Yu often lamented that they had such an opportunity today because they followed Shi Xiaoye and befriended Ningqi. If not for Ningqi, not only would they not be able to maintain a good relationship with the City Lord Mansion, their net worth would not have reached this level. Now, even ordinary Karma Realm cultivators would be left in the dust. But in this half a year, although Ningqi's relationship with the City Lord Mansion was getting closer, and he would go to the City Lord Mansion at least 3 times a month to appraise the Heavenly Source Stone for the Vice City Lord, the progress of the mission was still 0. What treasure did Vice City Lord Shao get to be able to control the situation of the Myriad Race War? Brother Ning, after half a year of laying the groundwork, when are we ready to act? Why don't I sneak a peek at Deacon Shao Ri and see if he knows about this? Sun Shu whispered. Shi Xiaoye and the other 2 nodded slightly. There's no need to rush. Such an item is definitely the treasure of the Heavenly Wolf City's Vice City Lord. If we don't have absolute confidence and make him suspicious, we won't even be able to leave Heavenly Wolf City. Ningqi laughed. Shi Xiaoye and the other 3 didn't know the true purpose of the Dark Parliament's test, but Ningqi knew that their mission was to hide. The treasure of the Deputy City Lord would naturally be taken by others. What Brother Ning said makes sense. Let's be a little more patient. Shi Xiaoye nodded. Oh right, I heard that Deacon Shao Ri has taken a liking to Komodo. He became Deacon Shao Ri's guard yesterday. Sun Shu suddenly laughed. This guy has been working as a driver for half a year. When he returns to the Dark Parliament, we'll make sure to make fun of him. Meng Yunzi couldn't help but laugh. Let's forget about it. Komodo is a petty guy, and his background is stronger than ours. We shouldn't offend him if we can. His uncle is Master Zito, and there's also a member of the Sea tribe in the Parliament. Their relationship must be like an old tree. Who knows if there will be a 5th-step cultivator standing up for Komodo? It won't do us any good if we provoke him. Niao Yu shook his head. Deacon Shao Ri has taken a liking to Komodo. Ningqi's eyes moved slightly as he pondered. City Lord Mansion. Komodo followed beside Deacon Shao Ri with a fawning expression. He was inwardly happy that he didn't waste the past half a year and successfully got into the Deputy City Lord's side. Although they are guests of the Deputy City Lord, they don't live in the City Lord Mansion. Compared to me, it's easier for me to complete the mission. Haha, Komodo. Deacon Shao Ri suddenly stopped. Deacon Shao Ri, what instructions do you have? Komodo quickly cupped his hands. I have a question for you, and I hope you can answer truthfully. Deacon Shao Ri looked at Komodo with a faint smile, but his eyes suddenly flashed with fierceness. Komodo was slightly stunned and subconsciously thought that his identity had been exposed. He was so scared that his legs almost trembled. However, he immediately reacted. It was impossible for his identity to be exposed. After all, he had been enduring for the past half a year and had never gone overboard. He had to expose his identity. Deacon Shaori, please ask. I will tell you everything I know. Komodo said loyally. I remember that half a year ago, there was a cultivator beside Brother Ning who seemed to recognize you. You seemed to recognize him too. Do you still remember that? Deacon Shaori said with a smile. He paused for a moment. Tell me their background. In the future, you will have the Deputy City Lord as your backing in Sky Wolf City. No one will be able to bully you. In the future, when you reach the Karma Realm, it will be easy for you to become a deacon in the City Lord Mansion. Although I remember what happened that day, that person recognized the wrong person. Weren't you there too? Komodo's expression didn't change as he said respectfully. If I could tell you, I would have told you on the first day. Komodo couldn't help but curse in his heart. Jiokun had specially instructed them not to fight amongst themselves. At the same time, their every move might be monitored by the Dark Parliament. If he betrayed Ningqi and the rest now, he wouldn't have to complete his mission. Return to the Dark Parliament. What awaited him at the headquarters was probably a very severe and terrifying punishment. Haha, the expressions on your faces at that time can be hidden from others, but don't even think about hiding it from me. Why do you think I suddenly promoted you to be my personal bodyguard? Deacon Shaori sneered. In the next moment, Komodo realized that there were a few more figures around him. They formed a circle and surrounded the area. Komodo's expression changed when he saw this. For more than half a year, I couldn't even find out where any of them came from. Do you think there's something wrong with them? Similarly, I have also investigated your background. Guess what? Just like them, I couldn't find any traces of your appearance. Haha, you still want to say that you don't know them? Shaori Deacon let out a cold sneer. Chapter 34-35. Komodo's face turned pale. Shaori's karma force was like a huge mountain, making it hard for him to breathe. Shaori Deacon, you really misunderstood. Komodo squeezed out a smile. If you don't speak, I will bring you to see the Deputy City Lord. I can't kill you completely, but I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your immortal palace in front of the Deputy City Lord. Shaori said with a faint smile. Komodo's eyes flashed with fear. If a rebirth state expert attacked personally, his immortal palace would definitely be pulled out forcefully. If the immortal palace was destroyed, he would be completely dead. He only asked about Ningqi's background. I just need to lie, and it won't be considered an internal conflict. The Dark Parliament shouldn't punish me. Komodo thought to himself. After a few breaths, he nodded dejectedly. Deacon Shaori, I will speak. As soon as he said that, the pressure on him disappeared. Shaori Deacon smiled and patted Komodo's shoulder. That's right. Tell me, is there a fifth step cultivator behind little brother Ning? Where are they from? A Heaven Source Master family? Wait, could it be that Shaori Deacon? No, the Deputy City Lord only wants to know if Ningqi has a fifth step cultivator as his backing? Komodo suddenly understood and relaxed. Shaori Deacon wanted to know this. Needless to say, he must be planning to attack Ningqi. Uncle also suspected that Ningqi has some kind of Heaven Source technique. It seems that the Deputy City Lord has the same thoughts as Uncle. However, Uncle doesn't dare to attack because of the Dark Parliament. As for them, they only need to know that there is no fifth step cultivator behind Ningqi. If there is a backing, they will definitely kill him. Thinking to there, Komodo smiled. Deacon Shaori, I do know them, but I don't have any relationship with them. Instead, I have some enmity with them. They don't have any backing, otherwise I wouldn't be alive now. No backing? Shaori Deacon's eyes flashed with joy. However, he had to confirm this point. Say it again. Do they have any backing? No, Komodo said with determination. You really didn't lie. Very good. Shaori Deacon smiled in satisfaction. Follow me, I'll bring you to the Vice City Lord. Meet the Deputy City Lord? Deacon Shaori, I've already told you the truth. Komodo's expression changed slightly. Don't worry. It's just a cultivator from the Immortal Palace. There's no need for the Deputy City Lord to take action personally. Come with me to see the Deputy City Lord and repeat what you told me. Shaori Deacon smiled. Hearing this, Komodo heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was secretly delighted. Perhaps he could use this opportunity to get closer to his mission goal and complete it. After Tianlang City's Vice City Lord heard Komodo's words, he went silent for a few breaths of time. Shaori Deacon saw this and asked in a low voice, Vice City Lord, should we act now? There's no need to be in such a hurry. Let's wait a little longer. If we act now, it won't be so easy to pry open this kid's mouth. We'll lose a lot of Origin Essence Stones, so let him open a few more Heavenly Origin Stones for me. The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City smiled faintly. All right. Shaori Deacon nodded his head and left with Komodo. Time passed by quickly. A year's time was a very short period of time for cultivators. More and more dark cultivators lurked in the City Lord's residence. However, no one's mission progress was ahead of the others. No one knew what the treasure in the Vice City Lord's hand was. On this day, Ningqi and the rest were invited to the City Lord's residence again. From Shaori Deacon's words, it seemed that Tudwa was here again. This time, he brought an extremely rare Heavenly Origin Stone. Brother Ning, it will be a full year in 7 days. Our mission progress seems to be similar to when we first came here. When we return to the Parliament, I'm afraid we won't be able to get promoted. Sun Shu transmitted his voice. Don't worry. Ningqi smiled. Sun Shu sighed in his heart when he heard this. Coincidentally, he saw Komodo and the rest standing guard at the entrance of the hall. His mood immediately lightened up. Komodo and the rest's mission progress is similar to ours. Since everyone's progress is similar, perhaps the Parliament will arrange a new mission for us. It's too difficult to snatch an item from a rebirth state cultivator. We can't even get any information. Listen, if such a mission comes, one will die. Komodo smiled faintly as he watched Ningqi and the rest walk into the hall. A trace of schadenfreude flashed in his eyes. He had already received the news that the Vice City Lord might attack Ningqi and the rest today. Vice City Lord, Brother Ning is here. Shaori smiled and cupped his hands towards the Vice City Lord. Ningqi took a look at the situation in the hall, and his eyes flickered. Apart from the Sky Wolf City's Deputy City Lord, there was no sign of Tudwa at all. Vice City Lord, where's Senior Tudwa? Ningqi smiled. Daoist Tudwa should be here soon. It's fine, we'll wait here for a while. The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City smiled. He paused and looked deeply at Ningqi. Actually, I called little brother Ning here today because there's another matter that I don't know if I should say. Not good. Shi Xiaoye suddenly felt a sense of danger pressing down on them. Tianlang City Vice City Lord's words and actions seemed a little strange. Vice City Lord, please speak. Ningqi smiled. During this period of time, I've seen your appraisal techniques for Heavenly Origin Stones. None of the Heavenly Origin Masters I've seen before can compare to you. Little brother Ning, I wonder if you're willing to share this technique with me? I'll give you 1 billion yuan stones. How about it? The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City smiled. Vice City Lord must be joking. Heavenly Origin Stones rely on eyesight and intuition. How can I give it to you? Ningqi smiled. Brother Ning, although the Vice City Lord and I aren't Heavenly Origin Masters, we've heard of the cultivation techniques unique to Heavenly Origin Masters. Aura gazing, smell discernment, etc. Let's not beat around the bush. The Vice City Lord has taken a fancy to your cultivation technique. If you give it to me, not only will you get 1 billion yuan stones, the Vice City Lord will also truly become your backer. Think about it. Shaori Deacon interrupted. The expressions of Shi Xiaoye and the rest instantly turned ugly. What they were worried about had finally happened. Shaori, Vice City Lord, you guys have earned quite a lot in this year. Are you planning to burn the bridge after crossing it? Ning Qi said. Brother Ning, you can't say that. You're just a cultivator of the immortal palace. How did the Vice City Lord and I treat you? You should return the favor no matter what. Shaori Deacon sneered. It's quite lively here. Faint laughter suddenly rang out from outside the hall. Then, Tudwa walked in and smiled at the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City. Daoist Tudwa, didn't I tell you to come later? The Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City frowned. It's about time. I have to bring these juniors back, so I came uninvited. Please forgive me, Vice City Lord. Chapter 34-36. Junior? Ning Qi and the others glanced at each other, a trace of bewilderment in their eyes. Shi Xiaoye and the others didn't understand at all. They thought that Tudwa was trying to help them, but they couldn't figure out Tudwa's motive. However, Ning Qi was different. The Bloodtier commander had told him that the real mission would be handled by a fifth step Almighty from the Covenant of Darkness. Could Tudwa be that fifth step Almighty? How could he hide from the system's attribute check? The Vice City Lord of Tianlang City frowned slightly. He looked at Tudwa indifferently and said, Fellow Tudwa, what do you mean by that? There's something that shouldn't be in your hands. You don't have the right to have it. Give it to me, and I'll leave with these little fellows. You'll still be the Deputy City Lord of Sky Wolf City. Or maybe the City Lord. Tudwa smiled. How dare you? Deacon Shiori could not help but scold. From his words, it could be seen that he did not put the Deputy City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City in his eyes at all. He was an expert at the rebirth realm, and even the City Lord had to give him some face. How dare a mere rebirth realm cultivator speak so arrogantly? Fellow Tudwa, what do you mean? Why can't I understand what you're saying? The Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City said indifferently. However, a trace of suspicion that was hard to detect flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then I'll make it clear. There's a rod with mysterious runes on it that you can't understand, right? You obtained it in a mystic realm some time ago, but you still don't know its use, right? Haha, take it out. Tudwa smiled. You're indeed a senior sent by the Covenant of Darkness. A bitter smile appeared in Ning Qi's eyes. If Tudwa was really a fifth step Almighty in disguise, then the matter of him buying the human-shaped heavenly source stone from Tudwa with a smiling mask had probably been exposed. Who exactly are you? How could you possibly know about this? The Deputy City Lord's expression changed drastically. He had indeed obtained a rod, but no one knew about it until now. Even the City Lord, who had been cultivating in seclusion, did not know about it. Yet, the other party was able to describe the appearance of the rod. Just what kind of means did the other party use to know about this matter? You don't need to know how I know. Tudwa smiled. You're planning to buy time so that your City Lord will notice the technique you secretly used just now and wait for him to come and suppress me? The Vice City Lord's expression changed slightly, and his expression became even more grave. Since Tudwa's abnormal behavior, he had already determined that Tudwa's cultivation was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. At the very least, Tudwa had the confidence to fight against a perfect rebirth stage expert. Otherwise, he would not have appeared here so casually. He secretly used a transmission method to inform the City Lord, but after more than 10 breaths of time, there was no response from the City Lord. This caused an ominous premonition to rise in his heart. That day I visited you and then visited your City Lord. So, you don't have to wait for him. I've already sent him to reincarnation. Tudwa smiled. What? Hearing that, Deacon Shiori's legs almost turned to jelly. He looked at Tudwa in disbelief. The Sky Wolf City Lord was extremely mysterious, and even he had only seen him a few times. He was a legendary fifth step almighty, but Tudwa said that he would send the City Lord to reincarnation? Could this person also be a fifth step cultivator? According to the information, the Sky Wolf City Lord is a fifth step cultivator. In our Dark Parliament, he's a secretary-level expert. He actually died in the hands of this person? Today's matter is a little strange. We should act according to the situation. Shi Xiaoya's expression was extremely grave. Meng Yunze and Niao Yu nodded slightly. They were prepared to escape at any time. As for attacking, that was something they did not even dare to think about. Even Deacon Xiari was difficult for them to deal with, let alone the Vice City Lord and Tudwa. I see. Ning Qi's eyes flashed with understanding. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. That day, Tudwa had left in a fluster because Ning Qi had asked for too low a price. He had indeed said that he was going to find the Sky Wolf City Lord. Later on, Tudwa had left the City Lord residence with a livid expression. Ning Qi had thought that the Sky Wolf City Lord was also unwilling to pay for the human-shaped Heavenly Source Stone. However, he had never imagined that the Celestial Wolf City Lord might have been silently killed by Tudo on that day. This person is probably a top expert among the fifth step cultivators. Otherwise, a battle between fifth step cultivators would at least cause some commotion. It's impossible for it to be so silent. Ning Qi's eyes became much more solemn and he suddenly felt lucky. If Tudwa had not come out today, he might have to think about how to escape from the Sky Wolf City Lord's hands unscathed. Impossible. How could the City Lord die in your hands? Even if you concealed your strength, you're at most on par with me. The Sky Wolf City Lord was unwilling to believe it. At the same time, he did not dare to believe it. I want something. This is your last chance. Tudwa said with a smile. All right, I'll give it to you. The Sky Wolf City Lord gritted his teeth and pretended to take something out. However, in the next moment, a ferocious expression appeared on his face. A terrifying aura was about to be released with him at the center. You're courting death. Tudwa snorted coldly and pinched the air. The Sky Wolf City Lord's body exploded on the spot. At the same time, the immortal palace hidden in the void was pulled out and cracked inch by inch. Clang. An interspatial ring fell to the ground. It's a pity. Even if a rebirth state expert destroys the immortal palace, he can go to the infinite realms of reincarnation to reincarnate. There's only a slight chance of killing him if he enters the infinite realms of reincarnation. Tudwa sighed softly. Deacon Xiari stared at Tudwa in a daze. His body could not help but tremble and his teeth chattered. A rebirth state expert was killed in a breath, just like that. He did not even manage to protect the immortal palace. Tudwa gently waved his hand, and the interspatial ring landed in his hand. He scanned it with his divine thought, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. He then looked at Ning Qi and the others and said, "Your mission this time is over." He paused and smiled at Ning Qi. "Kid, your mission completion rate is not bad. The first place is yours." As senior, could it be that you're from the Parliament? Sun Shu was in disbelief. That's right. I was sent by the Parliament. Do you really think that the Parliament will let you snatch something from a rebirth state expert? Chapter 34-37. Greetings, Senior. Shi Xiaoye and the others hurriedly bowed. They were a little excited. They didn't expect the Parliament to send such an expert. In that case, they were now in an extremely safe situation. Deacon Xiaori, how is it? Komodo stared at the scene with his mouth agape. To him, Ning Qi and the others who should have been suppressed were fine. Instead, the deputy city lord's seat was turned into a pile of minced meat. Xiaori Deacon trembled as he stood on the spot. His face was frighteningly pale. Kumodo, it really is you. Sun Shu immediately shouted angrily, you betrayed us? No, no such thing. Komodo immediately felt guilty. He subconsciously looked at Tudwa. How had this heavenly source stone merchant appeared? He had been guarding the door just now. How had he not seen him enter? We'll talk about him when we get back. We've recorded your every move during this period of time. Whether or not he betrayed you will be judged by the council. Tudwa said calmly. Having said that, he walked directly to the gate and slowly said, the mission is over. Cultivators from all districts, gather at the City Lord's mansion. Mission complete. Cultivators from each district, gather at the City Lord's mansion. Mission complete. Districts. Tudwa's voice was like a clap of thunder, reverberating ceaselessly within Celestial Wolf City. The cultivators of Celestial Wolf City raised their heads in shock as they turned to look at the City Lord mansion. They did not know what was going on. However, there were hundreds of cultivators who were scattered all over the place. Their eyes flashed with shock as they soared into the sky and headed toward the City Lord's mansion. In just a short span of 10 breaths, hundreds of cultivators appeared in front of Tudwa. These were the prodigies from the various districts who had come to participate in the promotion mission. There are actually so many people here. What is their goal? If it's for the treasure of the Vice City Lord, then he alone is enough. Could it be that they are here to gain experience? What kind of power would arrange for a fifth-step cultivator to follow their disciples? Deacon Shiori was dumbfounded. The other cultivators of the City Lord's mansion were also gathered there, watching the scene before them in shock. They did not know who Tudwa was, but because the hall Tudwa was standing in was where the Deputy City Lord received guests, they did not know what was going on. He did not dare to act rashly. Is everyone here? Tudwa said calmly. Everyone glanced at each other. Some people noticed that some dark cultivators hadn't arrived yet. Just as they were about to speak, Tudo smiled and said, the mission has already ended. Those who haven't arrived will be considered to have failed the mission. You can come back later. After saying that, Tudo gently waved his hand, and a blue passageway appeared in front of him. Go in. Everyone looked at each other, then walked into the passageway with uneasy hearts. They felt that they had made no progress in the mission this time, and they did not know if they would be qualified for promotion when they returned to the Covenant of Darkness. Not long later, everyone entered the blue passageway, including Shi Xiaoye and the others. Only Ning Qi didn't move. Tudo looked at Ning Qi with a faint smile. You're not willing to leave? Senior, that heavenly source stone, Ning Qi smiled. I originally planned to sell that heavenly origin stone for 300 million origin stones. Since you've paid enough, it's yours. Don't worry about it. Tudwa smiled. 300 million. So he secretly went to buy that heavenly source stone. Shaori Deacon looked at Ning Qi blankly. Coincidentally, Ning Qi also turned to look at him. Shaori Deacon's body stiffened, and sweat seeped out of his palms. Shaori Deacon, you're very skilled at burning bridges and biting the hand that fed you. Looks like it's not your first time. I'll come back to the greedy wolf world if there's a chance in the future. Ning Qi smiled and walked into the blue passageway. Deacon Shaori's heart trembled for some reason when he heard this blatant threat. Even though she was only a cultivator from the Immortal Palace, during this past year, Xi's composure and indifference had caused Deacon Shaori to have the misconception that he was facing an existence at the same cultivation realm as him. Yes. Now that he had a fifth-step cultivator as his backing, his future would be limitless. Ning Qi's words were clearly telling him that he would return to the greedy wolf world one day. As for what he would do, it would naturally be to end today's matter. You heard what the little fellow said, right? Tudo chuckled. Yes, I heard it. Shaori Deacon's expression tensed up, and he was extremely nervous, afraid that he would be killed by a slap. So, live well and wait for the little fellow to come back to personally end this matter. Tudo laughed and stepped into the blue passageway. With a swish, the passageway disappeared. The dumbfounded city lord mansion cultivators came to their senses. A few deacons ran to Shaori and asked him what had happened. What happened? The city lord is dead, the deputy city lord is also dead. Deacon Shaori smiled hypocritically. As soon as he finished speaking, he paid no further attention to the group of deacons that were dumbstruck by this news, and he turned around and left. He intended to leave Sky Wolf City and run far away, and he didn't intend to return for the rest of his life. Darkness Parliament Headquarters Building. The Secretary General and Tudo stood side by side. Seeing the two of them chatting and laughing, Shi Xiaoye and the rest were shocked. As expected, he is an existence of the same level as the Secretary General. His cultivation should be much higher than Lord True Spirit's secretary. That's why he could silently kill the city lord of Heaven Wolf City. Ning Qi thought to himself and sighed at the same time. Although he had never seen the city lord of Sky Wolf City before, the rumors were not wrong. He was definitely an existence that had reached the fifth step. Otherwise, how could the deputy city lord of Sky Wolf City, with his wild ambition, be willing to be below him? He was originally a high and mighty figure, but because the Darkness Parliament wanted to train the immortal palace cultivators, he was killed by Tudo in passing. He probably didn't even know the reason until his death. After an hour, the Secretary General and Tudo ended their conversation. Then, Tudo smiled at Ning Qi and turned to leave. I believe all of you should have a clear idea of the mission this time. Your true mission goal isn't how to snatch the treasure from the Deputy City Lord of Heaven Wolf City. Instead, the counselors want to see how you will approach the mission goal. That is to hide your identity and your goal in front of the rebirth state expert. The Secretary General smiled faintly. The Darkness Parliament is actually testing on this point? Everyone was dumbfounded. Komodo and the other fellows who were hiding in the city lord residence felt extremely lucky. If this was the benchmark, they should be qualified since they were the closest to the deputy city lord. However, there were some who wanted to use other methods to complete the mission. This fellow's face was ashen at this moment. Before you came back, I had already led Commander Bloodtear and the rest to make a judgment based on your performance in the past year. The one with the highest score this time is from the 5th District. The Secretary General smiled and looked at Ning Qi. Congratulations, little fellow. You are qualified for promotion. Chapter 34-38. He actually scored the highest? Many people stared at Ning Qi with their mouths agape. They weren't like Zhu Kun and the rest who could watch everyone's progress from the Dark Parliament's headquarters. Therefore, they weren't very clear about what Ning Qi had done in the past year. They only knew that Ning Qi was a famous Heaven Source Master in Tianlang City. Next, the secretary announced the promotion spots for Shi Xiaoye and the other three. That's great. A trace of excitement flashed in Sun Shu's eyes. Even the calm and composed Shi Xiaoye revealed a look of joy. There was no need to talk about Dream Cloud Zhe and Yao Yu. The two of them were already feeling apprehensive about this mission. Now, all he had to do was to wait for the advancement ceremony. Secretary, what about the next spots? Wu Xiang didn't say anything after the secretary announced the 5 spot. He was startled and suddenly had a bad feeling. Xue Qiu and the rest looked at each other with a smile on their faces. There's no more. Only the 5 of them got the promotion spot. The secretary said indifferently. After saying that, he glanced at the Bloodtear commander. Counselor Sirius has already prepared the promotion ceremony. Tomorrow is the day of the ceremony. At that time, all the Immortal Palace cultivators at the headquarters will attend the ceremony. Counselor Sirius might also attend in person. I'll leave this matter to you. Don't disappoint me. Yes, Secretary. Xueqiu immediately replied respectfully. That's not right. Why are there no more spots? Aren't there 100 promotion spots? Why are only the 5 of them promoted? I've already infiltrated the city lord mansion as a guard. Why am I not promoted too? Komodo's eyes revealed a trace of disbelief. The expressions of the cultivators from each district turned extremely ugly. They originally thought that although this mission was a little difficult and didn't go according to plan, each district should at least have 1 or 2 promotion spots, right? In the end, all 5 promotion spots went to the 5th district. The other districts didn't even get a single spot. Secretary, why are there only 5 spots? During this period of time, we can clearly see that many of them have done their best for the mission. Wu Xiang took a deep breath and looked at the secretary. Did they do their best? Then did any of you speak to the Tianlang City Deputy City Lord? The secretary smiled and swept his gaze across. Everyone's expression changed. If you don't even dare to approach the mission target, how can you talk about hard work? The Secretary General sneered. If you only have this much courage, what can you do even if you advance to the karmic realm? It's just a waste of our Parliament's resources. Secretary, I spoke with the Heavenly Wolf City's Deputy City Lord. Why didn't I get a spot? A hint of hesitation flashed in Komodo's eyes, but he finally mustered up the courage to speak. The quota this time was very important. If he couldn't get it, he would have to wait for another 500 years. Although 500 years wasn't too long, it was enough for some cultivators who weren't as good as him to catch up to him. Dark cultivators are not allowed to see the light of day. The Holy Council can't wait to get rid of all of us, so what we need to do is to be united. Even if we can't help, we can't be a burden. Do you think I don't know what you said to the Vice City Lord of Sky Wolf City? Really? So, not only will you not get a spot this time, you won't even get a spot in 500 years. If you want to advance to the Karma realm, you'll have to wait for 3,000 years. The Secretary General glanced at Komodo and turned to leave. What? 3,000 years? Komodo's face turned pale, as if he had lost all his strength. He almost fell to the ground. With the Secretary General's status, his words were set in stone. No matter how he tried, he couldn't change this fact. Unless that Sea-Race counselor spoke up for him, but that was impossible. Let's go. Wu Xiang coldly snorted and led a group of dejected 8th District cultivators away. The leaders of the other districts also left expressionlessly. This time, none of the prodigies they brought obtained a spot. Although it was related to the Dark Council's sudden change of plans, when they returned to their districts, they would still be punished by the Secretary. Of course, he would also be punished by the Secretary. No one could laugh. Komodo, although your matter ends here, the Secretary General punished you for 3,000 years because you didn't really cross the line. But when we return to District 5, I will report this to Lord True Spirit. What kind of punishment will you receive then? I don't know either. Jiuquan walked in front of everyone and looked at Komodo. Hearing this, Komodo slowly lowered his head. He didn't even have the mood to be afraid now. His heart was filled with endless hatred. 3,000 years to advance to the karma state was undoubtedly the most terrifying punishment for him. As for what punishment Lord True Spirit would give him, he was no longer in the mood. He didn't want to think too much. You guys are not bad. Jiuquan's gaze fell on Ning Qi's group of 5 and instantly became much gentler. The other cultivators of District 5 were filled with envy and jealousy, but at this moment, they wouldn't show such emotions because Ning Qi's group of 5 might very well be the next day. They would be Karma State cultivators, a realm higher than cultivators of a mortal palace like them. When they saw Ning Qi's group of 5 again, they would have to call them seniors. Jiuquan, if you have anything to say, wait until after tomorrow. I will be taking these 5 kids away. You know, before the advancement ceremony, they have to burn incense and take a bath. Commander Shueqiu stepped forward and smiled. Thank you, Commander Shueqiu. I will have to trouble you to take care of the 5 of them. Jiu Kun quickly cupped his hands. In a deep and serene hall, there was a black pool in front of Ning Qi's group of 5. It was 1 zhang long and 1 zhang wide. The black liquid inside was constantly bubbling, and an unpleasant smell came from the pool. Commander Shueqiu, aren't we going to burn incense and take a bath? This is… Sun Shu stared blankly at the black pool in disbelief. Shi Xiaoya frowned and also looked at Commander Shueqiu. She hoped that he would immediately shake his head and say that this wasn't prepared for them. She didn't know what this black liquid was, but it was too smelly. Commander Shueqiu and Yinzhen looked at each other and then laughed strangely. You think it's smelly? This is a treasure that can conceal your aura. Even if you undergo tribulation, the Supreme Saint Council won't be able to detect it. It's the excrement of the Void Yin Beast. The Council? There isn't much left, and we haven't found any Void Yin Beasts in all these years. You should be glad. Void Yin Beast excrement? Excrement? Isn't that shit? Chapter 34-39. Ningqi, Sun Shu and the others walked into the pool one after another. Enduring the stench, they slowly sank into the pool. When the 5 of them entered the pool, the black liquid seemed to have found a host. It began to surge and reduce at a speed visible to the naked eye. Little Ning, what do you plan to do? You should be the reason why he can complete the mission this time. Commander Yinzhen suddenly said with a smile. Don't talk nonsense. Commander Shueqiu smiled and said indifferently, Lord Zhenling has specially sent news that Little Ning cultivates a reincarnation-type cultivation technique. His karma is extremely complicated and huge, not weaker than ours. He must have been a rebirth stage expert back then. I don't plan to take him as a disciple. If he recovers his memory in the future and he turns out to be someone we are familiar with, or even stronger than us, wouldn't that be embarrassing? I'm really curious. However, after all these years in the Dark Parliament, I know that countless rebirth state experts have died. How can it be so easy for those who have entered the reincarnation realm to regain their memories? He might have already reincarnated countless times. When you and I were still at the 3rd step, he was already a rebirth state expert. Who knows, he might even be our senior. Commander Yinzhen smiled. I see that Lord Secretary General is quite interested in this boy. As long as he successfully advances to the karma stage, he might be accepted as a disciple by Lord Secretary General. Commander Shueqiu smiled. Secretary General? Commander Yinzhen's eyes flickered. He looked at the black pool in pity and didn't say anything. He actually wanted to take Ningqi as a disciple and didn't have the same concerns as Commander Shueqiu. After all, Ningqi's battle strength was already at the same level. Not to mention that his Heaven Genesis technique was stronger than ordinary people's. As time passed, the liquid in the black pool gradually bottomed out. On the 2nd day, the black liquid had completely disappeared, while a layer of black membrane covered Ningqi and the other 4. But after a few breaths, this membrane seemed to also disappear. But after a few breaths, the film also seemed to have been absorbed into their pores. Ningqi and the others opened their eyes one after another. The Void Yin Beast's excrement was absorbed by us? Sun Shu suddenly felt a little disgusted. He hurriedly checked his body and found that there were no changes. The excrement seemed to have evaporated and didn't leave any traces on their bodies. Could they really hide from the Holy Parliament? Okay, follow me. Commander Shueqiu smiled faintly. Headquarters of the Dark Council. In a huge public square, the surroundings of the public square were already filled with cultivators from the Immortal Palace. Not only that, cultivators at the initial stage of the Tao querying realm and above were qualified to watch the advancement ceremony of Ningqi and the other 4. There were at least 7 to 8 million people, and it was bustling with noise and excitement. I heard that the mission for the promotion ceremony this time is extremely difficult. Only 5 people are qualified, and they are all cultivators from Division 5. The 5th division is already so strong? Is it better than all the other districts? Do you remember Jiokun? Of course I do. His generation was even more miserable. Only 2 people qualified to advance, and one of them was him. He's already at the fate state, and it's very likely that he'll reach the reincarnation state in the future. The 5th district is led by Jiokun. It seems that he imparted some experience to those 5 immortal palace cultivators. It's a pity that the other cultivators in the 5th region didn't get a promotion. I heard that if these cultivators want to get a promotion, they'll have to wait at least 500 years. They won't be qualified for another 500 years. As the crowd discussed, Komodo, who was sitting nearby, had a gloomy expression on his face. So what if they got a promotion? Even if there are 100 people in every promotion ceremony, 80 to 90 people will fail. Ningqi, if you fail, I won't be weaker than you even if I have to wait 3,000 years. Komodo thought viciously. Many people had the same thought as him. They were the dark cultivators who had failed the mission. However, they didn't have a specific target. They just hoped that Ningqi and the other 4 would fail. In this way they would feel better. Suddenly, the Bloodtear commander brought Ningqi's group of 5 through the air and landed in the center of the square. At this moment, all the cultivators that were whispering to each other shut their mouth. For a moment, the bustling square became so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Millions of eyes fell on Ningqi and the other 4 immediately. The Tao-querying cultivators who had yet to form their immortal palaces looked envious. The immortal palace cultivators, on the other hand, were envious and jealous. Their fighting spirit was ignited, and they hoped that one day they could accumulate enough merits to qualify for the promotion. The hundreds of immortal palace cultivators who had failed the mission were envious, jealous, and hateful. Their gazes were the most unfriendly among the millions of people. There was a high platform in the middle of the square. Ningqi saw the Secretary General, the mysterious 2 duo, and several faces he had never seen before. There were 7 or 8 people. These are all 5th step cultivators? Ningqi's heart trembled. He suddenly felt that Jiang Tianshu's rebirth state cultivation was not that great. If he could offer enough temptation and invite one of the 5th step cultivators to help him, he would be able to take revenge on both the old and new grudges at the same time. At the same time, he would have a great opportunity to find Hao Tian, Jian Shi, and the others. No, Jiang Tianshu also has a backer, and the ancient Star Pavilion might not be weaker than the Dark Parliament. If a 5th step cultivator acts, it will likely attract Jiang Tianshu's backer. If I can't suppress him, I will be in a very passive position. Just as Ningqi was deep in thought, a special aura suddenly appeared above everyone's heads. Everyone subconsciously looked up and saw an incomparably large eyeball appear in the void, just like a god. It was like a god looking down on everyone. At this moment, the Secretary General and the others all stood up and bowed toward the eyeball. We greet Representative Heavenly Wolf. Representative Heavenly Wolf. 6th step Great Emperor. Millions of people were visibly moved, and they stood up to pay their respects. Their voices resounded mightily and swept towards the surroundings. Is this an imitation of the Holy Parliament? Ningqi cursed in his heart as he bowed. Last time he went through the tribulation in the god Luo secret realm, he had also seen an eyeball. Permission granted. A hoarse voice echoed. The next moment, the Secretary General looked at Ningqi's group of 5. You can prepare for the tribulation. Chapter 3440. This way, I have nothing to worry about? Ningqi's aura was as steady as a mountain, but he was still on guard. The owner of this eyeball was the heavenly wolf counselor, who was also a sixth-step great emperor. However, compared to the true counselors of the Supreme Sacred Assembly, his strength was a whole realm lower. Ningqi wasn't sure if the Void-Ean Beast's excrement was. Ningqi was not sure if the excrement of the Void-Ean Beast was hiding his aura, or the strength of Heavenly Wolf representative. Shi Xiaoye and the other three were different. Their auras were rising rapidly, as though they could not wait to advance to the Karma realm. This might have something to do with them growing up in the Dark Assembly. They trusted the Dark Assembly's methods unconditionally. Unlike Ningqi, Shi Xiaoye was hesitant. Why is that guy not moving? Has his cultivation not reached the peak of the Dao querying realm? Someone noticed Ningqi's current situation, and a trace of suspicion flashed across his eyes. Commander Xueqiu, Commander Yinzhen, Secretary General, and the rest also noticed this scene. They immediately felt a trace of suspicion. On the spectator stand, a cultivator of the 5th District secretly transmitted his voice to Komodo. What do you think this kid is planning? Is his cultivation not enough to trigger the lightning tribulation? It's possible. If that's the case, he will lose a chance to advance to the Karma realm. Komodo's ugly expression finally eased a little. He looked at Ningqi with a trace of anticipation. If that's the case, will the Dark Assembly compensate our 5th District with a spot? Don't even think about it. Komodo replied with an ugly expression. He had already been punished by the Secretary General to not be able to advance to the Karma realm for 3,000 years. Therefore, he naturally did not want the Dark Assembly to compensate the 5th District. The first to reach the peak was Shi Xiaoye. She floated in the air with her eyes closed. Her skin was pale, and she looked like a pale corpse without any signs of life. A dark cloud gradually condensed above her. Seeing this, everyone immediately became nervous. They were not worried about whether Shi Xiaoye could pass the lightning tribulation successfully, but they wanted to see if the Supreme Sacred Assembly could detect that she was undergoing the lightning tribulation. After a dozen breaths, besides the eyeball that belonged to Heavenly Wolf representative, no new eyeballs appeared. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief, and became more confident in the Dark Assembly's methods. Looks like we can indeed hide from the Supreme Sacred Assembly. Ningqi's eyes revealed a trace of a smile. Boom! As the first bolt of lightning descended, the tribulation clouds above Sun Shu and the other two also finished condensing. Next, the spectators watched with trepidation. Each bolt of lightning contained a terrifying aura. In their opinion, it was enough to destroy their physical bodies. Our immortal palaces. The 4 of them had used their physical bodies to withstand the first 2 lightning strikes. This was the only way that the power of the 3rd lightning strike would not become stronger. When the 3rd lightning tribulation appeared, the 4 immortal palaces appeared behind their backs, infusing them with even more majestic immortal palace power. Bang! The smoke dispersed. The 4 of them fell to the ground, battered and exhausted. Sun Shu was gasping for breath. His skin had been completely carbonized. Going through the tribulation in Shenluo world is indeed like what the Fire Qilin said. The power is much weaker. I can use my physical body to withstand these 3 lightning tribulations without any effort. If my lightning tribulations are as powerful as theirs, Ningqi thought to himself. They all succeeded? Komodo was slightly stunned. He could not help but clench his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. The expressions of the cultivators leading the various regions did not look too good. Jiu Kun, who had been expressionless all this while, finally revealed a big smile, and could not help but nod slightly. Suddenly, a special aura appeared between the 4's eyebrows. It was like a whirlpool. A few breaths later, a grain-sized karma faintly appeared between their eyebrows. At the same time, all the karma that the 4 of them carried was madly sucked into this grain-sized karma. In less than 10 minutes, the grain-sized karma of the 4 of them had already expanded by several times, reaching the size of a pinky's fingernail. Only then did their karma slowly sink into their eyebrows and disappear. Ning-Chi realized that from this moment onwards, the auras of the four of them were completely different from before. Their bodies gave off a very clean feeling. All the karma that they have been contaminated with since they were young has been sucked into that karma bead. That's why they are now like newborn babies, incomparably pure. Even so, their karma is only the size of a fingernail, but mine is. Ning-Chi could not help but smile bitterly. He did not know how many grudges were hidden in that karma bead of his. Once he reached the karma state, it might be much more difficult for him to reach the fate state than it would be for a normal karma state cultivator. However, he would definitely be much stronger than a normal karma state cultivator. After a few breaths, the four of them had recovered from their injuries. They looked inside their bodies in surprise and then at Ning-Chi. "Brother Ning, what happened to you?" Sun Shu was shocked. He had not been able to pay attention to what was happening around him. He had been completely focused on the heavenly tribulation, so when he saw that Ning-Chi was still a celestial palace cultivator, he thought that Ning-Chi had failed the heavenly tribulation. The eyeball in the sky slowly turned and its gaze fell on Ning-Chi. At that moment, the Secretary General said slowly, "Ning-Chi, if your level cannot trigger the heavenly tribulation, today's ceremony will end here." "Sorry, I was distracted just now." Ning-Chi cupped his hands apologetically. To everyone's surprise, his aura soared like a rocket. In just a few breaths, his aura was many times more majestic than Sun Shu's and the other three's combined. Another roar came from Ning-Chi's mouth. With a tearing sound, his clothes were all torn apart. In an instant, Ning-Chi turned into an ancient demonic ape that was hundreds of feet tall. At the same time, golden lines appeared on the surface of his body. That was the Panga bloodline that he had obtained after absorbing the demon ancestor. Under his full power, the Panga bloodline was suddenly full of vitality. The prison-suppressing dragon elephant sacred art. The 8-9 arcane art. The 9 inner hidden gates. The 4 spirits sacred art. At that moment, Ning-Chi's body was circulating 4 kinds of arts. The 4 spirits sacred beasts appeared in the void behind him, but the prison-suppressing celestial palace remained hidden in the void. Although the Covenant of Darkness and the Supreme Sacred Council were enemies, he did not want anyone to recognize his previous identity from the prison-suppressing celestial palace. At that moment, Ning-Chi's state had reached its peak. The sky was suddenly filled with dark clouds. Thunder rumbled and golden snakes flashed. The dark clouds stretched for thousands of miles, making the sky darken. The momentum was much greater than Sun Shu's and the other three's combined. "This kid has a lot of trump cards. He might be cultivating the 4 spirits sacred art of the 4 sacred clans." The Secretary General and the others looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. As for Jiu Kuren and the others, they were completely shocked by Ning-Chi's current aura. In their opinion, this kind of aura was difficult to match even for an early-stage Karma Realm cultivator. Was this still the cultivation of the Celestial Palace? Chapter 34-41. Looking at the tribulation clouds rolling in the sky, Ning-Chi's mind suddenly flew elsewhere. It was as if the thunder tribulations had become ordinary clouds in front of him. Boom! The first thunder tribulations fell. Ning-Chi did not move. The second thunder tribulations fell. Ning-Chi still did not move. His eyes revealed a trace of reminiscence. He was thinking about everything he had experienced over the years. The former Qin Tang Empire could not withstand the wheel of history and dissipated in time. The only fortunate thing was that some people Ning-Chi cared about were still alive. In the beginning, he had desperately cultivated to increase his cultivation level in order to survive. In the end, he had a wife and children. It was still to survive, to protect the people he cared about and loved. He had constantly tempered himself to be able to reach this day. Other than that, he also wanted to achieve a great ambition. The people he loved wanted to live forever. Those who hated him would go to Avicii hell. Boom. The third thunder tribulations fell. This thunder tribulations was at least 100 times more terrifying than the one Sun Shu and the others had just experienced. Ning Qi's figure gradually changed, and he once again returned to his human form. His torn clothes seemed as if they had never been torn and were brand new. From his hair to his toes, Ning Qi's body did not have the slightest aura of tribulation transcendence. It was as if the thunder tribulations had not left any traces on his body. When everyone saw this scene, even the Secretary General and the other fifth-step existences were shocked. They had lived for so long and had experienced this thunder tribulations themselves. However, even the strongest among them could still remember how miserable they had been when they had undergone the thunder tribulations. The most shocking thing was that Ning Qi had not taken out the immortal palace. He had withstood the third thunder tribulations with just his body, and he had done it so easily. Ning Qi's eyes were tightly shut and a karma mark appeared between his brows. When everyone saw this karma mark, other than those who already knew about it, Komodo and the others felt a wave of shock in their hearts. They couldn't believe it. How long has he lived? Why is the karma so shocking? Compared to Sun Shu and the others, Ning Qi's karma was many times larger. It was shrouded in black mist, and no one could see clearly what was hidden within. Soon, something in Ning Qi's body was constantly being absorbed by the karma. His aura became purer and purer. After about 2 hours, his karma grew larger and slowly sank into Ning Qi's eyebrows. At this moment, Ning Qi's body was clean. It was like a piece of transparent white jade, without the slightest impurity. Just when everyone thought that Ning Qi was about to complete his breakthrough, Ning Qi's aura suddenly soared once more. At this moment, his aura had already far surpassed the initial stage of the karma realm, reaching the middle stage. He reached the middle stage of the karma realm right after transcending the tribulation? Brother Ning's talent is really scary. Sun Shu was dumbfounded. Shi Xiaoye and the other two exchanged glances, suddenly feeling ashamed of themselves. They were both advancing, but it was so difficult for them to advance. But Ning Qi, on the other hand, was like taking a stroll in a garden, relaxed and carefree. What was even more unbelievable was that he had just ascended, yet he had already broken through to the karma realm middle stage. What kind of aptitude was this? When this kid was at the great circle of the Tao querying realm, he completed the accumulation that ordinary people would find hard to do. Now that he has broken through to the karma realm, it is like a dragon entering the sea. All his accumulations will burst forth instantly, saving him countless years of bitter cultivation. The Secretary General said in a deep voice. Tu Duo's eyes lit up as he looked at Ning Qi. You're right. When I first saw him, I felt that he had a bright future. I didn't expect him to have such a bright future. He caused a bigger commotion than the two of us when we ascended to the karma realm. How about this? I have no children, nor do I have a disciple. Brother, I will accept this kid as my disciple and nurture him well. Perhaps our parliament will have another representative in the future. Commander Xueqiu and the others were in disbelief when they heard this. Fortunately, Tu Duo's words could only be heard by those on the high platform. Otherwise, if ordinary cultivators heard it, their mental state would probably crack. You think so highly of this kid? His accumulations can only prove that he has indeed cultivated a reincarnation-type cultivation technique, just as the true spirit said. He has gone through who knows how many reincarnations in the myriad realms. His aptitude might not be as good as you think. He's that good. The Secretary General looked at Tu Duo with a strange expression. Tu Duo immediately let out a dry laugh. His Heaven Genesis technique is also not bad. You know that I like to gamble on stones. With such a disciple, how can the other old fellows compare to me? The Secretary General suddenly understood, and the corners of his mouth curved in a faint smile. How could Tu Duo not understand the logic behind his words? It was obvious that Ning Chi's method of gambling on stones had made Tu Duo want to accept him as a disciple. His performance today was merely the icing on the cake. Xueqiu, bring him up. The Secretary General pointed at Ning Chi, who was restraining his aura, and smiled. Commander Xueqiu nodded. Halfway up, Ning Chi, who had already restrained his aura, once again erupted with a terrifying aura. This aura was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than before. Chapter 34-42. Ning Chi's aura had reached the peak of the advanced stage of the karma state, but it gradually decreased and converged. Ning Chi slowly opened his eyes. Everyone thought that was the end, but the next moment, the aura that had been converged into his body surged again. It quickly surpassed the peak of the advanced stage of the karma state and was more than 100 times stronger than before. They were all at the karma state, but the auras of Sun Shu and the others were like ants standing in front of an elephant compared to Ning Chi. There was no comparison at all. Great completion of the karma state? This kid reached the great completion of the karma state just like that. This is a real meteoric rise. He was just an immortal palace cultivator before, but now he's already at the great completion of the karma state. He's only half a step away from the fate state. He must have consumed many spirit herbs and spirit fruits when he was at the great completion of the Tao querying state. That's why he has such a foundation. Maybe we can do the same. That's right. I thought that my cultivation wouldn't improve at this level unless I reached the karma state. I didn't expect that a stronger foundation would be so helpful after reaching the karma state. Many immortal palace cultivators seemed to have found their temporary goal. At their current level, they had to accumulate enough merit points to get a chance to advance. However, after today, they could find all kinds of spirit herbs and spirit fruits that could strengthen their foundation before they had enough merit points. That way, they could be like Ning Chi when they reach the karma state in the future and save countless years of hard cultivation. Unfortunately, the fifth step Almighties of the Dark Parliament had already thought of this idea. The only reason they did not let their subordinates carry it out was because it was too difficult. If they wanted to be like Ning Chi today, it would be impossible. It was impossible to achieve what Ning Chi had done today. If a fifth step Almighty was willing to nurture an immortal palace cultivator and used all his wealth to buy spirit fruits and spirit herbs, the most he could do was to help that immortal palace cultivator advance by a small level when he reached the karma state. It was impossible for someone like Ning Chi to reach the great completion of the karma state. Therefore, no fifth-step cultivator would do something that would make them lose money. The karma state has reached the great completion? Ning Chi couldn't help but feel a flash of joy in his eyes as he sensed the changes in his body. All the pores on his body seemed to be gasping for air. With each breath, he could absorb extremely majestic qi. In addition, his sea of consciousness had also become very clean. Other than the immortal slaying gourd, the mountain river tablet, and the old Lord Pill furnace, the statue that he had condensed from cultivating the ancient immortal incense body refining technique had disappeared. The fruit, burning with black flames, hovered in mid-air. My statue is made of incense, and incense is also a kind of karma, so it was devoured by karma. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I heard that the more karma there is, the harder it is to reach the fate state. A solemn look flashed in Ning Chi's eyes. He suddenly cupped his hands towards the eyeball in the sky and said, "Thank you, Counselor Sirius." Councilman Sirius is still here? Tudwa was slightly taken aback. Earlier on, everyone's attention had been attracted by Ning Chi. They had thought that the serious councilman would leave after the ceremony, but now the eyeball was still hovering in midair, quietly looking down at everyone. "You very good." A hoarse voice was heard. "If you can break through to the rebirth state within 200 years, I will personally take you in as my disciple." The hoarse voice was heard once again, but this time, it seemed that only Ning Chi could hear it. The others were still in shock from Councilman's serious praise. With that, the eyeball slowly disappeared in midair. "Brother Ning, you're really amazing. You've reached the peak of the karma state as soon as you broke through. Even Councilman Sirius praised you." Sun Shu's group of 4 moved and appeared beside Ning Chi. They looked at Ning Chi excitedly, their eyes filled with excitement, envy and pride. Because Ning Chi was a cultivator from the 5th district. Because they had a good relationship with Ning Chi. The stronger Ning Chi was, the better it would be for them. "Brother Ning, you have to take care of us when we return to the 5th district. I just saw Komadwa. Hee, didn't you see his expression? It was as if he had eaten a mouthful of dog shit." Niao Yu laughed. "He's already our junior. It's inevitable to give him a few words of advice." Shi Xiaoye smiled faintly. "Yes, that makes sense." Meng Yunzi nodded with a smile. "Kid Ning, come with me. The Secretary-General and the others want to see you." At this moment, the Bloodtier commander flew through the air and grabbed at Ning Chi. A wave of energy directly locked onto Ning Chi and flew him towards the high platform. Ning Chi didn't resist. Even though his strength had skyrocketed and he might be able to fight against someone at the initial phase of the Fate state, he wouldn't stand a chance against someone at the rebirth state unless he took out the Devil Purification Gourd. "I'm so envious of Brother Ning. You received the praise of Councilman Sirius, and now the Secretary-General wants to see you. Do you think the Secretary-General wants to take Brother Ning as a disciple?" Sun Shu said enviously. "It's possible." Shi Xiaoye nodded with a hint of envy in her eyes. Meng Yunzi and Niao Yu looked at each other. If Ning Chi really became a disciple of a 5th step Almighty, then the families behind them would have to curry favor with him. On the stage, the Bloodtier commander cupped his hands at the Secretary-General and the others, then stood to the side. The Secretary-General, Tudo, and a few others who were suspected to be at the 5th step were sizing up Ning Chi with scrutinizing gazes. Ning Chi had a respectful smile on his face as he stood there quietly. "No wonder Councilman Sirius praised you. You're indeed outstanding." The Secretary-General was the first to speak after a while. "I'm ashamed." Ning Chi smiled modestly. "You don't have to be so humble. Perhaps you were one of us a long time ago." Tudo smiled. The Bloodtier commander and the others were slightly shocked. They thought that Ning Chi might have been a rebirth state expert in the past, which was already a very high guess. However, Tudo had said so. Could he really have been a 5th step cultivator in the past? That was incredible. "I don't remember anything about my past life." Ning Chi smiled. "It's fine if you don't remember. How can the mark of reincarnation be erased so easily? Even emperors can't escape reincarnation." Chapter 34-43. "Yes, kneel down and acknowledge me as your master." Tudwa chuckled. After saying that, he suddenly felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere. He then reacted and looked at Ning Chi in shock. "What did you just say? Please forgive me for not being able to comply." Ning Chi cupped his hands and bowed. This guy, the Bloodtier commander and the others looked at each other in disbelief. A dignified 5th step cultivator, a Secretary-General, had actually been rejected? The Secretary-General's expression also became slightly strange. The other 5th step cultivators exchanged glances before looking at Ning Chi. "What? Do you think I'm not qualified to be your master?" Tudwa snorted coldly, and his expression gradually turned cold. "I have something that is difficult to say. Please forgive me, Senior." Ningqi said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Difficult to say, Tudwa pondered and looked at Ningqi indifferently. There was no fear on Ningqi's face, nor was there any arrogance from advancing to the karma realm and reaching karma perfection. However, this calm demeanor made everyone feel Ningqi's unyielding character. He did not want to become a fifth step almighty. Naturally, he thought that he could also reach the fifth step. I see. It seems that you don't have completely no memories of your previous life. Tudwa smiled and waved his hand. You may leave. Yes. Ningqi nodded respectfully and left the high platform. Tudwa had guessed wrongly. The reason for Ningqi's refusal was simple. Compared to a fifth-step cultivator, a sixth-step cultivator like the Heavenly Wolf representative was obviously more tempting to Ningqi. The Shunluo realm was the same as other places. Without a backer, it was difficult to move forward. Now, he had a chance to fight for an emperor-level existence. If he wanted a backer, he could only give up on the fifth-step cultivator. Brother Ning, did those seniors praise you just now? Did they give you any rewards? After getting off the high platform, Sun Shu and the others immediately surrounded him curiously. The seniors told me not to be arrogant because of this. Ningqi smiled. I'm afraid that Brother Ning is the only cultivator in this batch of Immortal Palace cultivators to be reminded by these seniors. Shi Xiaoya's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. Dream Cloud Zhe and Niao Yu understood her very well. When they saw her expression, they immediately understood and glanced at Ningqi with a faint smile. Since you've successfully advanced, there's no need for you to stay in the headquarters. Follow me back to Division 5. Jiu Kun walked over slowly, stood in front of everyone, and said calmly, Yes. Ningqi cupped his hands. Jiu Kun nodded again when he saw that Ningqi didn't become complacent after receiving the Heavenly Wolf Counselor's praise, and still treated him with the same attitude as before. This kid was indeed a promising talent, so he had to bring Ningqi back as soon as possible. In the 5th district, ask Lord True Spirit to give Ningqi a position. That way, he wouldn't be robbed by cultivators from other districts, or even forced to stay at the headquarters. An hour later, Ningqi and the others sat on Jiuquan's ferry boat and once again entered the passage of time. On the ferry boat, Ningqi's group of 5 formed one team, while the other 5 formed another. Both sides seemed to mind their own business. In reality, Ningqi's group had no intention of bothering Komodo's group, and Komodo's group did not dare to provoke Ningqi's group. Any random Sun Shu was an existence that they should look up to, let alone Ningqi, who was at the great circle of the Karma realm. With such a cultivation level, even in the 5th division, he was still a prominent figure. There were only a few families that had such a cultivation level backing them up. What a pity! If Lord Jiuquan had allowed us to stay a little longer, we could have emptied the headquarters' Heavenly Origin Stone trading market. The quality of the Heavenly Origin Stones in the 5th District's trading market are slightly lower than the ones in the headquarters. Sun Shu sighed softly. Sun Shu, be content. Didn't you earn enough in the greedy wolf world? When I returned to the 5th District, the first thing I did was to exchange all the Origin Stones for blood essence pills. Although I had reached the Karma realm, I could directly absorb Origin Stones to improve myself. However, the blood essence pill is easier to digest and has a stronger effect. Meng Yunzi laughed. Brother Ning, we really have to thank you this time. If it weren't for you, we might have ended up like them. We wouldn't even have the qualifications to advance, let alone earn a fortune comparable to a Heaven's Mandate realm cultivator. In a short period of cultivation, there was no need to worry about Origin Essence Stones. Niao Yu looked at Ningqi with a solemn expression and then bowed formally. Shi Xiaoya, Meng Yunzi and Sun Shu were slightly startled, but then they followed Niao Yu and bowed to Ningqi. This scene was seen by Komodo and the rest, who were observing them from afar, and they all had different expressions. There's no need for the 4 of you to be so polite. Ning Qi smiled and helped them up. The four of them couldn't help but straighten their bodies, feeling admiration for Ning Qi's methods. As expected of a Karma Realm Great Circle, his strength was something they couldn't resist at all. Komodo, come here. Suddenly, Sun Shu waved in Komodo's direction. Komodo was slightly startled. The other 5th Division cultivators looked at him with sympathy and then lowered their heads. What's the matter? Komodo walked in front of Sun Shu with an ugly expression and said in a stiff tone, "You don't know any manners. You're a Mortal Palace cultivator, and we're all Karma Realm cultivators. Aren't you going to call us senior? Don't you know the rules?" Sun Shu said plainly. "Sun Shu, don't go too far." Komodo's eyes were filled with anger and he clenched his fists. "Even if you're a Karma Realm cultivator, you don't have the right to humiliate me. My family is much stronger than yours." "Oh, so between cultivators, victory is determined by the strength of the family? Then I have Commander Shuiwei and the others as my backing. I can even say a few words to Senior Tudwa. What are you going to do about it?" Ning Qi suddenly smiled faintly. Komodo was slightly shocked when he heard this. His expression changed, and he finally said with difficulty, "5 seniors, what can I do for you?" "Haha, that's right. It's nothing. Go back and sit." Sun Shu laughed and waved his hand. "Yes." Komodo cupped his hands and bowed. Then, he walked back to his seat with an ugly expression. However, he was surprised to find that the other 4 Immortal Palace cultivators in the 5th Division had actually distanced themselves from him, as if they wanted to draw a line with him. Damn it! At this moment, Komodo felt unprecedented humiliation. "Sun Shu, why do you have to do this?" Meng Yunzi smiled and shook his head. "Now that Komodo bears a grudge against you, he will definitely cause trouble for you in the future." Niao Yu smiled. Chapter 34-44. The journey back to Division 5 was a torture for Komodo and the rest, especially in the flowing water time tunnel. There was no concept of time. Even if they were to count in their hearts, they would be affected by a special force. To Komodo, days felt like years. Ning Qi, on the other hand, was having a good time. The ferry boat finally left the passage while they were chatting. "We're finally back in the 5th District." Sun Shu was excited. Now that he had successfully advanced to causality state and returned to Division 5, he felt like he had returned to his hometown in glory. Jiu Kun walked out of the cabin and stood at the front of the ferry boat with his hands behind his back. "I've sent a message back. Lord True Spirit is very happy that you all reached the Karma Realm. Therefore, there will be a special celebration for you all." Celebration? Everyone was startled. Shi Xiaoye was in disbelief. In the past, those that reached the Karma Realm would at most be praised verbally. Why would there be a special celebration this time? But they soon realized what was going on and looked at Ning Qi. It was likely that Lord True Spirit had only done this for Ning Qi's sake. Although this promotion mission was somewhat special and only the cultivators from the 5th District had obtained 5 promotion spots, the other districts had all been annihilated. This could be considered a form of glory. They knew that such an honor wasn't enough for Lord True Spirit to personally hold a celebration. "Komodo, even Lord True Spirit thinks so highly of him. I think you shouldn't make him your enemy. With his talent, it's very likely that he will reach the Heaven's Mandate Realm and become someone like Lord Jiukun. It's hard to compare with him." One of the 5th District's cultivators sent a message. Komodo's face was green. He lowered his head and didn't reply. No one knew what he was thinking. The cultivator who tried to persuade him not to be enemies with Ning Qi shook his head and walked in front of the 5. He smiled and cupped his hands. "Congratulations, seniors. After today, who in the 5th District doesn't know the names of the 5 seniors?" Yeah, the other 3 also came forward to congratulate him. The smiles on their faces were very sincere. As for what they were thinking, only they themselves knew. You don't have to be so polite. Don't call me seniors. Sun Shu smiled. Komodo couldn't help but look up at Sun Shu before lowering his head again. He didn't want to clash with Sun Shu right now. With his family's influence, even if Sun Shu advanced to the Karma realm, he wouldn't need to be afraid. However, among Sun Shu's group, Ning Qi was the one he truly feared. If Nangong Zhuhui's slot hadn't been snatched away by that kid back then, so many things wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have been punished. That kid can forget about reaching the Karma realm, and I would have definitely obtained the slot. Nangong Zhuhui. That's right. Perhaps I can join hands with him. There was a glimmer of hope in Komodo's eyes. He was no longer as depressed as before. At the city gate of the 5th district, the famous families all sent people here to wait. For example, Sun Shu's family, the families behind Shi Xiaoye and the others, all had their family heads personally lead their cultivators, and they stood there quietly. However, some of the family heads had ugly expressions on their faces. They already knew that their disciples did not qualify to be promoted in this ceremony. Master, do you think that fellow has reached the Karma realm? Fan Er stood beside Nangong Zhuhui and asked in a low voice. Nangong Zhuhui remained expressionless. How am I supposed to know? You'll know when you get here. Haha, a ceremony? What's wrong with Lord True Spirit? Why is he holding a ceremony for a few Karma realm cultivators? Master, don't say that. Be careful, someone might notice. Fan Er hurried to warn Nangong Zhuhui. Nangong Zhuhui sneered and didn't say anything else. He stood behind Nangong Yuanqing and stared ahead coldly. He wouldn't have come if Lord True Spirit hadn't asked him to. Sun Wu, I heard that your kid has reached the Karma realm? Congratulations. Old corpse, didn't your daughter reach the Karma realm as well? Haha, same to you. Those kids are quite close. Let's keep in touch with them in the future. Of course. In front of the city gates, the patriarchs of several clans were chatting with smiles on their faces. Seeing this, the other patriarchs could not help but curl their lips, feeling gloomy. Those family heads were all at the fate state, but they weren't talking loudly, because there was another person in the room that they were wary of. He was one of the 3 great commanders of the 5th area, Commander Jushin. He was from the Titan clan, and his cultivation had already reached the intermediate stage of the rebirth realm. Commander Giant God stood at the city gate like a small mountain. Behind him was a group of cultivators from District 5's Covenant of Darkness. If Ning Qi had been present, he would have seen a familiar face among them. That was the person who had led him in. The purple spirit that had entered the 5th division. I wonder if that guy has succeeded in his promotion. Violet Spirit's eyes flickered as she looked in the direction of the city gates. Before long, Jiuquan's ferry boat appeared in the sky. After a few breaths, it entered the giant city and slowly landed. Commander Giant God, I'll have to trouble you to personally welcome me. After Jiuquan put away the immortal boat, he cupped his hands at Commander Giant God with a smile. Jiuquan, I heard from Lord True Spirit that you guys did well this time and suppressed all the major regions. I'm very happy, so I'm very willing to come and welcome you personally. Commander Giant God said in a low, muffled voice. Suppress all the major regions? What's going on? The family heads of the major families were confused. They had only received some information, but it wasn't complete. They didn't know the specifics. Dad. Sun Shu looked at Sun Wu and waved his hand happily. Be reserved. Sun Wu frowned and scolded. Then, he smiled and nodded. He had already sensed the karma aura on Sun Shu. Shi Xiaoye and the rest exchanged glances with their patriarchs. As for the families behind Komodo and the rest, their expressions were extremely unsightly. Especially Komodo's father, the family head of the only family formed by the Sea tribe in District 5. He was known as the Dark Ocean King and was at the peak of the Fate State. He didn't even look at Komodo. He had already received the news that Komodo had been punished by the Secretary General. He would not be eligible for promotion within 1,000 years. Not only would he be humiliated, but it would also have an indelible impact on his family. Such an impact would last for at least 3,000 years. He really reached the karma state. Why is his aura so strange? Violet Spirit's gaze landed on Ningqi as a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. At this moment, Ningqi winked at her. Seeing this, Violet Spirit's face couldn't help but turn cold. "Thank you, Commander Giant God." Jiuquan cupped his hands again. Then, he looked around and said indifferently, "Out of the hundreds of people who participated in the advancement ceremony, only 5 people from our 5th district advanced to the Karma realm. As for the other districts, none of them completed the advancement mission." Chapter 34-45. Only 5 people had qualified to participate in the entire promotion ceremony, and all 5 of them were cultivators from the 5th district? Disbelief flashed across the eyes of many cultivators. Even the heads of the various clans who were prepared for this and knew that the promotion ceremony would be different were shocked by Jiuquan's news. They couldn't help but wonder if the 5th district had already become so powerful. Good, good, good. Sun Wu couldn't help but clap and laugh heartily. His own son was one of the 5 people. How could he not be excited? No wonder Lord True Spirit held a ceremony for these 5 people. Nangong Yuanqing looked at Ningqi and the others with a livid expression. "Father, if this kid didn't snatch my spot, I would definitely be one of the 5 people this time." Nangong Zhuhui said through gritted teeth. "Don't worry. No one can bully the Nangong family like this. Moreover, this kid is also a human. Which clan in the 5th district doesn't want to be on good terms with the Nangong family? I will make it difficult for him to even take a single step forward." Nangong Yuanqing said coldly. Nangong Zhuhui sneered inwardly. "Let's go. The ceremony will be held in the Parliament building. All the influential people in the 5th district have been invited," Commander Giant God said with a smile. Soon, Ningqi and the others followed behind Jiuquan and the Giant God Commander and walked in the direction of the Parliament building. During this period, the news brought back by Jiuquan continued to spread. All the dark cultivators who heard the news could not help but feel honored. They were extremely excited. This time, the 5th district had made a great appearance in the headquarters. "Komodo, why do you look so pale? Judging from your aura, you haven't advanced to the Karma realm?" Komodo lowered his head. When he passed by Nangong Yuanqing and the others, Nangong Zhuhui couldn't help but ask. When Komodo heard Nangong Zhuhui's voice, he raised his head and looked at him. Then, he shook his head with an ugly expression. "Haha, he really hasn't advanced to the Karma realm. That's good too. If he advanced but I didn't, how am I going to face him in the future?" Although they were good friends, Nangong Zhuhui couldn't help but feel a trace of joy when he confirmed that Komodo hadn't advanced to the Karma realm. This was the kind of joy one would feel when they were in the same boat. Parliament building. Commander Giant God and Jiuquan had already left to pay their respects to Lord True Spirit, while Ningqi and the others were left in a hall. The Karma realm cultivators working in the council nodded politely when they saw Ningqi and the others. Occasionally, there would be a hint of admiration. "Miss Violet Spirit, we meet again." Ningqi walked slowly to Violet Spirit and said with a smile. Seeing this, Shi Xiaoya was slightly stunned and her brows furrowed. "Don't be nervous, Xiaoya. I've inquired about it. Brother Ning was introduced here by Miss Violet Spirit. If it weren't for her, I'm afraid we wouldn't have known Brother Ning." Dream Yunze secretly transmitted his voice. "Why should I be nervous?" Shi Xiaoya looked at Dream Yunze in confusion, before chuckling and chatting with Sun Shu. However, she would occasionally glance at Ning Qi and Violet Spirit from the corner of her eyes. Congratulations! The corners of Violet Spirit's mouth twitched. She felt that it was a little unreal. An immortal palace cultivator, who had just entered the 5th district not long ago, had suddenly become a Karma Realm cultivator. Right, your aura is a little strange. What's going on? Violet Spirit looked at Ning Qi suspiciously and asked. My aura is strange? I don't think so. Ning Qi laughed and laughed. Just as Violet Spirit was about to continue asking, Jiao Kuan reappeared and brought Ning Qi and the rest to Lord True Spirit's office. Not long later. We greet Lord True Spirit. Ning Qi and the rest bowed respectfully. Lord True Spirit sat behind the table. Half of his face was covered by the shadow. Commander Giant God stood beside him. Fortunately, the rooms in the Parliament building were huge. Otherwise, Commander Giant God would not be able to stand. Komodo was extremely nervous. After bowing, he did not dare to raise his head and kept staring at the floor. Karma Realm Great Circle indeed. Lord True Spirit's gaze lingered on Ning Qi for a few breaths. Then, he smiled and stood up, walking to Ning Qi. Seeing this, Shi Xiaoye and the rest were only left with envy. Not bad, not bad. Before you guys returned, a friend of mine in the headquarters sent me a message. He told me about your performance in the headquarters. You did not bring shame to the 5th district. Lord True Spirit patted Ning Qi's shoulder and said, Lord True Spirit is too kind. Ning Qi said respectfully, not arrogant or rash. Very good. Lord True Spirit smiled and looked at Shi Xiaoye and the rest. You guys did well too. You guys suppressed the other districts and won glory for the 5th district. I will not mistreat you guys. The 4 of you should not have a grade 4 primordial spiritual treasure, right? After the celebration, go find my treasure. Pick one at will. What? Komodo and the rest were stunned. Lord True Spirit was actually rewarded with a grade 4 primordial spiritual treasure? Thank you, Lord True Spirit. Sun Shu was extremely excited. 4th grade primordial spiritual treasures were extremely valuable. They were worth at least 50 million to 200 million primordial spiritual stones. 4th grade primordial spiritual treasures of higher quality were also extremely rare. Sometimes, one might not even be able to buy one with primordial spiritual stones. They were simply following Ning Qi to advance to the Karma Realm. Yet, they received such a reward. They were too lucky. After the surprise, they realized that Lord True Spirit only rewarded the 4 of them. They were extremely envious. Ning Qi would definitely receive a better reward. Perhaps a grade 5 primordial spiritual treasure? I will give you your reward after some time. I believe you will like it. Lord True Spirit looked at Ning Qi and smiled. Thank you, Lord True Spirit. Ning Qi cupped his fists in gratitude. There are rewards and punishments. Lord True Spirit's voice suddenly turned cold as he looked at Komodo. Even though Komodo didn't raise his head, he felt a chill down his spine. You're all from the 5th borough, but instead of protecting your own people, you plan to drag us down. If Ning Qi and the others are killed by the Vice City Lord of Heavenly Wolf City, wouldn't our 5th borough lose 5 karma cultivators? Quetzalcoatl, you're really good. You think that with your father's support, you can act recklessly? Lord True Spirit said coldly. Lord True Spirit, you are mistaken. Although the Vice City Lord sent Deacon Xiao Ri to interrogate me, I didn't tell him where I came from, Komodo said bitterly. Sun Shu and the others stared coldly at Komodo, a mocking smile on their faces. Even at this point, he still wanted to quibble. Since Lord True Spirit had spoken, he would not speak without reason. There had to be evidence, otherwise, how could he convince the others? As expected, Lord True Spirit sneered and waved his hand. An image appeared in front of everyone. In this image, Komodo said that Ning Qi and the rest had no backing. Everyone could see the joy on Deacon Xiao Ri's face when he heard this. Do you think you can avoid punishment by betraying your own people? I heard that the head secretary punished you with 3,000 years of karma. I will not kill you for your father's sake. But from today onwards, don't even think about getting a place in the 5th district. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.